Hello everyone and welcome back to Fleet's Random Ramblings. Steve, you're just deluded. Hosh is not ugly. It's just a matter of opinion. And opinions cannot be wrong. That's just the way it is. But yes, welcome. Welcome everybody to Fleet's Random Ramblings. Number 91 now. 9 to go until Big 100. Yes, indeedy. And let me just, if everything has gone correctly, as I think it has, this should, let me just do my very quick. Whoops. That's not the right outcome. I forgot a letter. There we go. Right, and then I'm going to do this. Boom, and we are off to the races. Basically. Right, so, let me just do the same thing again, so... And do my pin regarding the good afternoon, Paul. Let me make sure that everything is correct and I'm not doing this wrong, so that all is well. Because Steve did remind me to do this last week, and he is right. It does help anybody who discovers the channel new. Yeah, and let me just... Fantastic. And that is now pinned. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Right. Okie dokie then. Hello Timu, hello AMC Woods, hello Kazuki, hello Sea Dodders. Okay, that's the beginning officer. That's good lord, lads. Crikey, boys, easy, easy. We've only just got started. Right. Can't. You'll have to give it a minute, folks. My chair is not particularly comfy today for some reason, so I'm just trying to get it into a position where I can just crack on. Right. Okie dokie. Oh. Ah, I knew there was something I had forgotten. Brilliant. There we go. There we go. Lovely. And we're all set. Now, make sure that everything is released. Yep, okay, we are clear. Fantastic. Everything should be running as normal. Yep. Well, I will just do a quick can do. It should be, the link should be in the, oh, that's right, YouTube got rid of a lot of my permissions because for some reason I'm too small to have links in my descriptions. Because, yeah. That doesn't work for me, Timu. It's not set up that way. I'm on the older, more stable version of the bot that works, but I don't have some of the more advanced features. I have to do it manually. Hi, Dragon. Right, okie dokie. So. I'm not here right now.
Good evening.
Good evening. Right, so, without further ado, let's get started. So, first things first, we will do... So, first things first, let me just test this is working. Beautiful, fantastic. So, we'll start with Steve Clark's question on YouTube. Steve Clark asked, discuss why Fleet is wrong about LaHoche. Steve, my opinion is an opinion about Hoche's looks. You can't be wrong about an opinion. At least last time I checked, opinions can't be wrong because they're opinions. That's kind of the whole concept behind opinions existing. Last time I checked.
No, that's technically speaking false. Opinions most certainly can be wrong. But on the other hand, while Fleet might like this floating abomination of a ship, he has good reasons to like it and valid points. And of all the points that one can be wrong about, this is not one of them.
Thank you, Dragon. Oh, good lord. Right. So that's Steve Clark's done. So the next one is... Ruinon, are you doing the transfers, or am I today? Either or is fine. Just want to make sure we don't step on each other's toes. I know I'm being teased, but the way you beat people teasing you, Paul, is you hit them with a straight answer. They won't be expecting it. Thank you, Ruinon. Just let me press the next question button. Just put the Discord questions in one at a time. But I want to use the button you helped me set up. I didn't get to use it last week. So just put the Discord questions in, then wait for me to push the next question button for the YouTube ones. Because I really want to push the button. I am a simple man of simple needs. Yay. Okie dokie. Right, now that we have at least Dragon here, we can answer Timu's question, because Timu's questions usually require a panel, and this week is no different, even though it is a nice, simple, easy question to start us off with. Never mind, there's two. There's Brandon Larson and Timu Locker. So, Timu's first. What was the last book, not an ebook, that the panelists had read? Was it a good one? The last book I properly read... cover to cover, was, I think, one of my Conways. I think it was the 1860 to 1905 one. And yes, it was good. Reminds me of all the eclectic ironclads the world built in that period. Okay, so...
There you go.
Anyone else?
Castle Federation Book 7, Dakotan Federation Book 1 would be the last one I read.
So the
Which
next
wasn't
question,
very good.
The next question from Brandon Larson does require that Dr. Clark be here. So, well, we'll have to wait for him to answer that particular question, but he's not here right now, so I will leave that question's powder dry until we get to that point. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So, next question is a Discord question. Is it there, I assume? Yeah, there we go. Ruinon's got it. Boom. Fantastic. YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks, would my hypothetical heavy cruiser be liked by the Royal Navy in World War II? HMS Buccaneer, 12 9.2 inch in 3x3? That doesn't work. 12 9.2 inch in 3x... No, that gives 3x3 is 9. You could have... You can either have...
that doesn't work.
You can either have 12 9.2 inch in 3x4 or 4x3. And 3-inch autoloaders for the secondaries, 4 screws with high-pressure turbines and engines, M-type boilers, leading to 35 knots, 2 quad launchers for torpedoes. That doesn't give me any information on light and medium AA, though, which is a little concerning. And the
Also, when's this being made?
the lack of anything between the 3-inch and the 9.2-inch does leave me a little bit concerned for a cruiser fighting in the Second World War.
Wait, you said 3-inch. Which 3-inch?
He says 3-inch autoloaders. I assume he means similar to the mounts on
Oh,
Tiger.
because then they say for World War II.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that
This will have to come in like 45.
yeah, assuming
later.
assuming we magically make a ship of this class appear, a 35 knot 12 9.2-inch armed ship with basically magical secondary battery. And yes, having 2 quad launcher torpedoes, 1 per side, will be nice, but they're really just an added sting in the tail rather than anything useful for combat, given the ranges the ship's 9.2-inch guns.
Well,
will
maybe
enable it to-
appreciates doctrine-wise.
Yeah.
Sorry about
So
me. Get quiet
that's fine.
because my PC is currently fucked.
That's fine. It's understandable. So assuming only speak if you want to, Fox. So you can just sit here and listen if it's too much.
I've got to correct you because you can't source for shit.
I have that one more time. I can't understand what you're saying.
She said no, she has to speak because she has to correct you because you can't source for anything.
You know that's not what I said, Dragon.
Yes, but you also know I don't swear.
But yes, so just to very quickly, that question basically, like it would be a useful asset to the Royal Navy, but in terms of actually building it, you're looking at a 1945 and later ship if you want to build it realistically. If you're just magically making a ship of this class appear in 1939, the Royal Navy will consider it fairly useful. And then next question.
It's incredibly useful. Just as you said, building more is going to be a pain.
Paul Amos on YouTube asks, what do you think will happen realistically with the UK's procurement over the next 5 years, ignoring the more extreme views being expressed by some sources? Do you want my honest opinion? A genuine honest opinion? I know this is going to be boring, but I have no concrete idea. Genuinely. Because knowing the UK government and the MOD, the programs that are currently running could be canned, they could not be canned, they could be expanded. And these aren't extreme opinions, these are all options that a government could, and UK governments have done similar things in the past. Even at times of heightened tension. There could be a third aircraft carrier, there could not be a third aircraft carrier. There could be... Type 32 could be an expanded Type 31. It could be a second tranche of expanded general purpose frigates. It could be an AA barge. It could be... 32 could be any number of things. 26's procurement could be expanded. It could not be expanded. 31 could have more hulls added to it. 83 could be a barely warmed over Type 45, or it could be a genuine multi-mission destroyer, useful for multiple roles. A true UK equivalent to something like an Arleigh Burke. Or it could be something in between those two extremes. The problem with the current procurement environment as it stands is that there are so many potential realistic outcomes for what might be that tying any of them down and making predictions overall is basically impossible. Unfortunately, that's the truth of it. Looking at the current situation, yes, Paul, but even looking at the current situation, the next 5 years is... That is me just talking about the next 5 years. All of those things are viable possibilities in the next 5 years. 5 years is a long time in military procurement, especially in the environment we're currently dealing with.
I mean, just look what's happened in the last 3 years.
I would love to make a prediction, But the only prediction I can make with some certainty is some things will be procured, some things will probably be changed, and some things might probably be cancelled, but they might not be. Those are the only things I can say with certainty. Anything else, I don't feel confident making an assessment of. Because there are so many examples of UK procurement in the modern era, and by modern I go from basically post-1960 to the present day, going in all sorts of wacko and weird ways when predictions were things were going to happen a different way. And they just...
But we can work off some constants, though, Flame.
I mean, the only
That
constant...
we are in a...
Go on.
That we are in a period of rearmament. With the war in Ukraine and in Israel, and China being China, India, Pakistan, America being whatever the hell America's being, we're in a period of rearmament, which means we can say with some certainty that we're going to be procuring more. That's as far as we can go.
Yeah, basically. So, next question. Typical gunnery officer asks, opinions on the P-51's service in the Pacific against Japan in the late war. Do you think the 51 didn't have a good service record over Japan, unlike over Germany? I think it's a fundamentally different air environment, first of all, in terms of the threats you're facing and the escort profile you're doing. The B-29 is a higher flying aircraft, and your runs to target are longer compared to the runs over Germany. You don't have nearly as much freedom of action for a 51 when you drop your tanks over Japan. You've got... what is it? It's about... because most of your drop tankerage is going to get you there. And you're going to have about... I think it was anywhere between... and correct me if I'm wrong on this, anybody who knows... but it's not the sort of combat endurance you'd like. I think it's like anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes.
No. In many ways, the P-51 was the wrong tool for that job.
Yeah. So it's unsurprising that they had less success over that theatre. It's not any fault of the design. It's just where it's trying to do the same role in an environment that fundamentally doesn't support that airframe being used the way it was used over Germany.
Look. It's one of those scenarios of... okay, so here's the question. Why did they call the F-35 the Lightning rather than Mustang, which was the other option? Anyone know why?
Wasn't it because the Lightning better reflect... the original Lightning was a closer match for what the F-35 can do compared to what a Mustang can do?
Yeah. And where was the Lightning supposed to... was the P-38 supposed to operate, and where did it operate very well in long-range patrol, long-range escort and patrol role?
The Pacific.
The Pacific?
Yeah. And that's the thing. The P-38 is the aircraft you need for that job in the Pacific, not the Lightning, and not the Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Americans' view on warfighting and future of war, when they were designing the F-35, there is a reason why they went with the Lightning rather than Mustang for the name.
Yep. Well, there you are then. It really is that.
Realistically, the really interesting thing for history is what happens if the Royal Air Force had chosen the P-38 over the P-51, over the P-51. Because that was almost the case. It was almost chosen. It was almost chosen instead.
They don't just have the Royal Air Force, though.
Hmm?
Because the Lightning in RAF terms will be competing with the Mosquito, not...
Which is why I didn't get selected.
Not really. The P-38 Lightning is a heavy fighter, and a thoroughbred heavy fighter at that. the Mosquito is a tactical bomber that can also moonlight as a heavy fighter. They are not equivalent airframes in any way.
They're not equivalent airframes, but they're equivalent enough in role coverage, in terms of mission profile, not airframes, but mission profile, that it was felt that the P-38 didn't offer any enough advantages in covering different missions that weren't already to an extent being covered quite well by the number of Mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So that's more the thing. You pick it because the P-51 gets picked because it has a sufficiently different missions profile that it gives you new options rather than, oh, well, we can now do it this way or this way.
Both would be easy prey by things that hunt them in Europe.
Okay.
Right.
Can I just say something? I can't share this with anyone listening or watching this, but I would like to point out that some of the most humorous things in the world are when I challenge my ship-shape colleagues to write a couple of sentences about themselves.
Yeah, funny that.
For the conference profile.
Yeah.
I still haven't got yours. Still haven't got yours, Fleet.
Take the one I used, but I put it in as an example. It'll serve. It'll serve for now. I'm gonna get an image in a second. Well, not in a second, but like by Wednesday. Right.
That'll be good. But no, you in nicest way, you should see what the Dans have written about themselves.
Oi. I dread to think. I dread to think.
If I tell you that one's first drafts included international historical Lothario in their phrasing, that got sent back to them going, nope, you're rewriting that one. Oh, I love them both.
Right. So, Steve Clark asks, if a sci-fi fantasy TV producer was listening today, give them 5 suggestions on how they can make their series more appealing to non-genre fans. That's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. I'm not really a producer of television. And I don't know how to appeal to the masses. I produced content that I want to see. Anyone else got 5 suggestions? Because that is totally outside my wheelhouse. Because simply put, I'm not the general public.
It's pretty simple.
Solution. Don't.
1. Have people who look nice. Have eye candy. Male and female, and the rainbow in between. Step 2. Keep divisive modern politics out of it, because that'll just start a fight. Step 3. Hire an actual writer to write it. Step 4. Don't make it in Hollywood. Step 5. Don't write like a bloody millennial. There we go.
Trying to appeal to the masses will just get it ignored.
Step 6. Make sure your cast do not sleep together, because then you will either have to do the whole Big Bang Theory thing of locking them in a room till they're sorted out, or you will have to do the whole thing of various other shows where they've literally can no longer write scenes with those 2 members of staff in the actual scene together, which really starts to throw the writing into weird dialogue.
You're also going to have to figure out which segments you want to target for viewers, because every different segment is going to want to see something different. You are not going to put things into your series that is reminiscent of Game of Thrones if you want to attract Stargate fans.
Actually, the trick is to ignore segments or anything about that entirely and pretend everyone else doesn't exist. That is the easier way. Because
Very
otherwise
much.
you spend your whole time going, am I doing this because of this group, or am I doing no. Just ignore. In fact, that's the first and the most important thing you can do. Ignore everyone else exists. As far as you're concerned, the only show in the world is yours.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why so much modern media sucks ass today is because it's trying to be as broad market as possible, and it doesn't actually figure out, okay, who is our audience, and then makes the content for the audience.
Right.
Find your audience, cater to it. Problem solved.
The person, I remember the writers who wrote the what's they called?
Okay, I feel like
film,
you're about
the
to
Carry
go,
On.
I feel like you're about to go off down a tangent, Dr. Clark, and I'm sorry,
It's
but
a quick thing about the Carry On films. It's a quick thing about the Carry On films.
All right.
Their motto
very
was
quickly.
The writer's motto was, if it makes us laugh, it goes in the movie. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that was their entire policy. They didn't give a flying hoot about anything else, just if it made them laugh.
Yeah.
And it worked for the Carry On films.
And here, just one more thing.
All right, one more thing.
As the original Iron Man and Iron Man 2 showed, and the Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man Far From Home, if it's niche and it's good, the normies will come.
Yeah. Nuclearo Dinosauro, which is a hell of a name, asks, assuming the events in the H.G. Wells novel War of the Worlds happen in the early 1900s, how does it influence geopolitics? For example, a Britain that is hit with an alien invasion, might be unwilling to pursue the alliance with Japan. So I'm just going to very quickly start by saying we have the officially licensed sequel, which basically hypothesizes that Britain does turn somewhat insular and basically is now looking up rather than across the world, and basically is in splendid isolation, incredibly heavily armed in terms of land forces, and is looking up at the sky going, try it again, see what happens. Although it hasn't neglected the navy. So basically you've got a Britain that's basically sort of on a permanent war footing, just waiting for things to happen, but they don't get involved in anyone else's shenanigans. So they just kind of leave the French to their fate, and Germany just kind of rolls into France, and the French are dead by 1915, annexed into Germany, at least under occupation, and somehow the Germans are not able to deal with the Russians? I don't quite understand how that happens.
The more I hear of this, the more stupid it sounds.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been...
I can think of how that happened. I can work that one out. It's very simple. The Germans steamrolled the French, and then the British realised, hang on, that leads to Germans in control of all the channel facing us. We need to make sure the Germans are sufficiently weakened. Here, Russia, have money and infrastructure.
That does actually, that is actually something that is mentioned in the book. That the Germans can't prove it, but there are a suspicious amount of ships sailing through the Baltic and into northern ports. And the Germans really, really, really don't want to, mess with that.
Yes. That is typical British methodology.
But the British really, really don't want to actually get involved because that will take their eyes off the stars.
Because the British have decided to go from being a mere planetary empire to being an intergalactic empire.
Yes.
These are all small fry. We now have an enemy worthy of us.
Yeah, turns out they were right.
Mount the Gurkhas in the cannon.
Yeah, turns out they were right. The Martians do come again, but they come in much greater force that time. But I think it's a fairly accurate assessment that, yes, Britain would turn inwards. World politics isn't too much different. For example, the Russo-Japanese War does happen. Well, the thing is, Dragon, you have to bear in mind the sheer culture shock of what's just happened. This isn't just Britain's been invaded. This is Britain's been invaded. Large swaths of London have been burnt to the ground. The Houses of Parliament and Buckingham Palace are gone.
Yes, but that's actually getting my point more, because if anything, you have now a far more aggressive British Empire that exploits colonies in the world far more, because we need to rebuild. We will not let this happen again.
Well, yes.
You don't go isolationist. You go expansionist.
No, that's... They gain nothing by They already have all the resources and raw material they need within their empire. They can just do what they never did, go isolationist, input strict imperial preference. You trade within the empire, we don't trade outside of it. We use that to bolster our economy, because that was one of the reasons why the British economy was being more sluggishly growing compared to some others. They were all free trade for everybody, and everyone else was protectionist. And were taking Britain for a ride during the 19th and 20th century.
You're going to effectively cripple the empire over time doing that. You've effectively doomed it to a slow death.
Because you've just tried to implement autarky.
No.
Yeah.
No, imperial preference is... External trade is allowed, but you protect the imperial market in a way that wasn't protected before. It's not completely free
you
trade.
do that by making it unfeasible to trade with others realistically. Which doesn't...
Protectionism was the standard policy of every single nation apart from the British Empire.
Yeah, but going the isolationist route makes it worse.
You said extreme imperial protectionism.
Yes, that didn't...
Extreme protectionism. That is what murders economies, especially trade-based economies.
You didn't give me a chance to explain what I meant. You all just jumped to what you thought I meant, as usual.
That's what you... Words have fucking meaning, Fleet. If you don't get that, don't use the fucking word.
But yeah, like, the idea that Britain goes inward makes very little sense. I can see them not getting involved with France, sure, but Japan still makes sense to work with.
Well, yes,
they can still do more in Africa. There's plenty of other things you do abroad. If anything, you go, yeah, no, look, the stars have attacked us. Perhaps some of this petty squabbling isn't necessarily the best idea. So you start working, who can you work with? Well, Japan at the time is currently working well with us. Okay, perhaps we start talking with America again. You have more and more a case of, actually, this perhaps would be the best time to bolster international relations.
It is both are options, basically.
EU, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's something that comes after the Great War and the Second Martian Invasion. But that's in the second book.
The second book is dumb.
Yeah, it's not. It's pretty good, actually. If it wasn't, it would have been licensed by the estate. Next question. Knight6831. This is one for Foxo and Dragon, and then I'm going to get to Brandon Larson's Patreon question after this. Knight6831 asks, thoughts on the Azur Lane / Atelier Yumiya collab? I think that's how you pronounce that. By the way, the live stream for the Azur Lane Atelier Yumiya collab is next Monday at 11 AM. That's one for Foxo and Dragon, that is. Hang on, if it'll let me. Anyone? Because I have no idea. Obviously, I know what Azur Lane is, but I have no idea what the other thing is.
As I recall, it's another game / anime, and honestly, no real interest.
Foxo?
I have got as much interest in this as I do in... What were we talking about?
Yeah, put it this way, like, it's just not... Of all the collabs, it's really meh. I'm more interested in the PR8 stuff than it.
Yeah. Right, Brandon Larson, question for the panel. Ideally with Dr. Clark is here, and he is here. What if on January 1st, 1939, all US battleships are replaced with Ohio-class battleships, all cruisers with Jacksonvilles, all destroyers with Joshua Humphreys, and all carriers are replaced with Yorktowns? So, the Jacksonville-class cruiser...
Is this...
GG, that's it, game over.
January the 1st, when?
1939.
Yeah,
these
but
are
in nicest
all
way.
these are all World of Warships ships.
Ohio
Well, if you-
is an 18-inch armed long tanner.
Yeah, Jacksonville's a Worcester on steroids. With
I
triples
think the
rather
British are
than
building
twins.
alliance.
Oh yeah, they've got to. They've got no choice.
In a nicest way, at that scenario, that all comes into service in the world. I think probably the Soviet Union. I think I'm fairly certain Stalin is having some kind of reaction. It's gonna either be
He's having
a
kittens.
physical it's either a physical sexual reaction because the largest guns he's ever seen have just been put out to sea, or it's a physical reaction of I must build my own.
Yeah.
The Japanese are
Angry. Like, we just laid down the Yamatos and you do this?
they're just out of the fight for that fight. The British.
The British are the only ones
The
with the capability to respond.
Yes. The British, the speed of construction of the Lions is going to be immense. The speed of construction of other ships is going to be fairly big. The British are basically, I think the only advantage the British have over those battleships, I'm just trying to think of them, think of them exactly.
28 knots, 18-inch guns, five twin 5-inch 54s per side. Called? I believe they also get the 3-inch AA.
Oh, good lord! They've got everything then, and the kitchen sink. The answer to that is the British are probably going to be very, very keen on the fact that the Lions are 30-knot ships.
Yep, and everything that follows has to be 30 knot as well. And including the Lion's 18-inch armed successors, although whether the first tranche of those is 9/18s or whether it's an expedient, for God's sake, put a twin 18-inch gun in the same barbettes. Go, 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 go. We'll build the bigger ones later. Just go, 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 go.
One of the best things Britain will be at least semi-relieved about, but also annoyed, is these Ohios cannot transverse Panama Canal.
Well, that's
They're too wide.
Yeah. Well, that's going to make things annoying for the US.
Well,
yeah.
Now, let's be honest, Dragon. They can't traverse the Panama Canal as it is historically. But let's be honest, they'll be able to do a lot of the geographical forming, barring the lock work themselves.
So yeah, you probably see a very quick Panama Canal reconstruction underway.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a fairly interesting question.
Panamax we reached a lot earlier.
Yes, it will. Typical Gunnery Officer asks, what is your opinion on the cancelled XM800T? Do you think it's the Army's attempt to try and copy the role of the German Weasel? And do you think its 20mm cannon is lacking? No. I do not think it is an attempt to copy the Weasel. I think it is a recognition of the... things like Weasel, things like XM800, things like the CVRT family. That sort of range of vehicles in this sort of extremely light to light armoured vehicle are a recognition of the utility of vehicles in that weight bracket.
It actually comes from a joint program, because in 1965, Australia, Canada, UK, and the US were actually in a joint light combat vehicle, which results in the CVRT.
Yeah.
Canada goes off and acquires the Lynx, which was an M113 variant.
Yeah.
And the US Army goes off and develops other things, because basically they decide, no, we can't have the same as each other. But it's really interesting, they've now all spent a long time trying to basically building back to what is the CVRT.
Yeah.
And, by the way, if anyone wants another big giggle, right? So, I just saw a mock-up planned for a, today. This is one of the fun things I had today, and I can talk about it because the company's going to be doing everything publicly very soon, so it really doesn't matter. were introduced to clients, and I did check if I could talk about it if I was on any videos, and they said, yeah, you can talk, just can't mention the company name. Basically, here is the thing. It's an 8-ton vehicle, armed with a range of cannon, uncrewed, for reconnaissance.
Ah, interesting. Very nice. Jolly good.
They've basically reinvented the CVRT,
Woo!
just taken the crew out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we can afford to lose them. Whoopee.
You sit there, and they've got a control variant of it, and they went, this is going to be really interesting to you. Know what my thought went through my head when I saw it being put up in front of me?
It's CVRT again, but without the crew.
It looks like a Samaritan, which was the CVRT with the box on the back. That was the hospital version, the ambulance version.
I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with Convergent Evolution.
Convergent Evolution, it was copy and paste, my friend.
Hey, it's copy and paste of a proven design. Let's not knock it. We get that very rarely. How often do we get people coming up with a design that is new and funky and it doesn't bloody work? At least this time.
The fun thing is there's going to be a version with a 105mm gun.
Oh, very nice. The age of automatic tank destroyers is here. Yeah, let's get it done.
Oh, good Lord.
I may be overly excited about this proposal now. I just see fleets of gremlin scorpions running around shooting things. It's like, well, they're not scorpions, but like you get what I mean. It's like just
if they build any, they promise to do a testing day up on the malls. In which case, if I get invited to it, I'll get the whole shipshape crew invited along to it.
Oh, that would be fun! Just watching them go through their paces. Yeah, good stuff.
They were the nicest group of people I dealt with today.
Hey, good stuff. It's nice to have people who aren't complete gentlemen's unmentionables.
I started off with the day with someone telling me that it was going to cost be a $50 drone. And eventually it went up to a $500 drone, would wipe out any aircraft carrier solo within 5 minutes of any future war beginning.
Oh, best just to leave that statement where it is, eh? Steve Clark, Steve Clark asks, opinions on the UK and French cooperation on nuclear deterrence. Discuss the pros and cons of this. Now,
we've been doing it for ages.
Yeah, we've been doing it for ages. Well, we can't do it with the current generation of incoming submarines because, and bear in mind, I'm starting with the subs, and I'm going to move on to other parts of nuclear deterrence in a minute. But we can't do it with the current generation of subs because we're still working with the Americans. But there basically always is a potential.
Not what the agreement is about. No, you're jumping into it. You're missing out what the reason the agreement's about. I'm sorry, you're jumping off on different things.
There was no mention of an agreement. It was just opinions on UK and French cooperation on nuclear deterrence.
No, there's actually been an agreement. There's actually been an agreement of interaction, and they're going to be interacting out.
Well, first of all, A, I didn't know that. B, it wasn't mentioned in the question. So what the heck else was I supposed to do?
It was a massive front page spread all last week and today.
And I
don't. It's on all the newspapers.
And I don't read the papers.
That's what Macron's visit to the UK was about!
I didn't even know he was here.
Oh, good lord. Okay. Right, so, anyway, President Emmanuel Macron has visited the UK to get this to sign all this agreement and sort it all through. And basically, you remember a couple of years ago, because they're both so quiet, two of the British and the French SSBNs managed to smash into each other underwater. You do remember that one, don't you, Fleet?
Yes, I vaguely do.
That's good. We've now agreed, and the auspices of protecting Europe and NATO, that we're going to make sure that we both have at least one vessel at sea at any one point, guaranteed. And also, a process has been agreed for deconflicting so that they will not bash into each other again. That is basically what this agreement is about, to prevent that happening again. Because the boats are now quiet enough that they can't even hear each other when they are going to bump into each other underwater.
Well, that's a nice agreement, but apart from the whole not bashing into each other again, isn't having a single boat at sea, each power, what we were doing anyway? Just not together?
Yes,
and I mean, and obviously agreement and discussion on not bashing our very valuable boomers into each other aside.
Yes.
Isn't this just putting into writing something that already exists, apart from that whole "don't bash submarines into each other" bit?
Yes, you've heard about Keir Starmer and Macron, right? They are both politicians who excel in making what you're doing anyway into a loud statement.
Yeah, but I will point out there's nothing wrong with that in this particular security environment because it does.
No, it highlights it. It's very nice. It highlights the fact there are other nuclear powers and nuclear things at the table in NATO other than America, and that therefore, people have to consider them in their equations when they're factoring things in. All that's a good thing. All that's useful.
Yeah. Well,
But also, there's also the fact that Britain or France already agreed and working on for the last 10 years on developing warheads together and maintaining warheads together. We maintain the missiles jointly with America, that we maintain the warheads with France.
Yeah, the warheads are ours, but they can fit on either Trident or the French missiles. As in, like, ours
Yes.
jointly. But yes. Akazuki asks...
They're not, the warheads are not joint.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
You just said the warheads were joint. The warheads are not. They are very much British warheads and French warheads.
Yeah.
They are maintained jointly.
Yes,
we have a joint maintenance facility.
That's why I was... Yes, you've said what I was... Yes, okay, you got there first, but yes. So...
Joint warheads sounds like a very bad thing.
Yes, I know. Caveats were needed. You got there before I could. But hey, as long as one of us said it, that's fine. We're good. Our bases are covered.
Especially when you consider the British and the French have completely different fire control methodologies for their missile systems. You do realise the British system still operates very much on, we trust the sanity of our officers in charge of our subs.
Yeah. Akazuki asks, question, what if Prince Eugen was held in surplus till the 60s? Politely, she'd be scrapped or expended in some form of weapons test by the US Navy.
Yeah.
By that point, she'll be rusted all to heck because she won't have been maintained. She's fundamentally useless as a combatant. The German government will flat out say, we do not want a symbol of the Nazi regime returned to us. Even for scrapping. Especially in the 60s. There is no nation that would buy her. So basically her options are expansion as a target or scrapping. The US has no desire to make her a museum ship. Look, if Enterprise wasn't saved in the late 50s, what chance has Prince Eugen got? Button push! Oh no. No, it's the return of the question. No. No. Dr. Clark, look. It's the alteration of the question that you hated yesterday. Now it's on my show. No. Ah, no. Oh, well. This is my hubris, I suppose.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't understand.
You're the one who suggested it.
Paul, I don't understand what you mean. I didn't really put my foot in my mouth. Alex just saw an opportunity to make the point first, and so he did. And that's sometimes how it goes. Alex's brain sometimes works faster than mine.
Let's just sometimes hear what fleets accidentally stumbled into, and I can just hear the headlines now being written. France controls Britain's nuclear weapons. And I just went, no, no, we're going to clarify that quickly.
Yeah, because I was gonna go there, but Alex had no way of knowing that, so he jumped in.
Yes, because I thought, if Fleet leaves that hanging for too long, Fleet does not want to deal with that descent of what the internet gremlins will come for him.
Yeah, but it just sometimes happens, because Alex has a chance to think while I'm speaking, and I have to, speak and not think.
Yeah.
Which is how it goes. Yeah, so sometimes Alex is ready to rock and roll before I am.
I have had someone return 3 days in a row to write massive comments on a single video. And if all these comments are true, they must have either lived 3 lives or have many, many different personalities.
Oh, dear.
And they comment under the same name.
Oh, dear. So yeah, the Bone Mill Boy. I'll just repeat the question. How could USS Tennessee, the armored cruiser, be modernized in the 1950s with an unlimited budget into a cruiser armored guided? Or a CAG? Do we get something as pretty as the Albany class? So, the Tennessees. They have the hull mass for it. They are old ships, but if we have unlimited budget, we could basically just rework the machinery. Gut the superstructure. Honestly, if you're just turning it into a cruiser armored guided, rather than a guided cruiser, which would be a CG, that means you're going to keep some of the guns. So she's probably going to retain at least one twin 10-inch. Probably the forward mount. Although with a heavily revised superstructure. Rip out the coal-fired boilers and the vertical triple expansion. Replace them with the best, the most efficient for her hull form, oil-fired geared turbines. Actually, no. I'm going to say something interesting here, but there's a reason why I'm going to say it. Replace them with geared electric with beefy generators, or turbo electric if the power generation still isn't enough. Because the system she's going to have to carry, the missile guidance radars, the general purpose air search, and surface search radars, are going to be a significant drain on power. So she's going to need a lot of electricity generation to keep up with that.
Fleet.
Yes.
If you have a limited budget, what you do is you take that ship into a dry dock, you strip it down to its keel plates, and then you build a new ship.
Yes, but that is the somewhat boring answer and not really what the question wanted. But yes, you are right. That is something you can do. A great rebuild.
That is the only, to be frank, that is the only way you are going to get a Victorian era armored cruiser into an effective 1950s guided missile cruiser.
Well, the first one didn't say anything about it. It didn't say anything about being effective, but also it's not a Victorian ship. But I do understand your point. We can get a basic 27-knot vessel with a pair of 10-inch guns, maybe a pair of 5-inch on each wing, and maybe a single twin-arm Talos, but more likely single twin-arm Terrier launcher aft. But it's not going to be effective. The only way to get an effective ship is to basically say we're totally rebuilding this ship on Isgov and just build a new guided missile cruiser, whatever class is currently in vogue then, with the same name.
If Tennessee is anything like the size of Olympia,
she is not. She is not.
Is she bigger or smaller?
A lot bigger. She's a 14,000-ton ship.
Okay.
500 feet long, 72 feet beam, 25-foot draft.
You might have an option, but I would like to remind the court that the conversion of the Clevelands into guided missile ships rebuilt a substantial portion of the superstructure and required the removal of B turret and X turret.
Yes, and that is what this ship will also require.
B turret was replaced with a 25-inch, not in its entirety, but point still stands.
Yeah. Whereas this ship is basically going to lose basically all of its original armament, save one twin 10-inch forward. And the reason that's just been kept is A, for stability and structural security of keeping that barbette in place, and because it will reduce the time to reconstruct. Not so much the cost, because, well, we have unlimited money. And the question specifically asked for a CAG, not a CG, which means it needs to retain some form of gun armament.
Just rebuild. In the 50s, you still have the gun pits. Just strip the thing down to the keel and build a whole new ship. Hey, do a grand refit. Take a page out of the early 1800s U.S. Navy and refit it that way with the Pennsylvanias.
I know. I know.
It's technically fulfilling the terms of the questions, and you have unlimited funds, so you don't have to worry about Congress pitching a fit.
It is, but the spirit of the question was rebuilding the Tennessees as the whole stands. But yes, the other option, as you've said, and as I've said before, is entirely within the power of the question. Typical Gunnery Officer asks, opinions on the Annapolis-class destroyer. Do you think it's actually a frigate in terms of its firepower and its role is more narrowed into a more patrol role instead of an ocean-going warship, since it can't survive in an open ocean against missile threats in the 1970s to 1990s? Let me have a look. Right. Okay, so the Annapolis class was a two-ship class
I
of
just asked
destroyer.
a question. Did Fleet cut out for everyone else or just me? Because I keep hearing only every other word Fleet says.
Same.
Right. Oh, we're doing one of those things. Yeah, typical. Absolutely.
Discord is playing fun today.
Discord is being a funny person, which is not nice, and we don't like that. We don't like that at all. Right. Okay, that should have fixed it.
YouTube Minecraft looked this question about El Tango.
We haven't. It's not on the. I don't see it.
Oh, it'll be up soon.
Yeah, but we aren't there yet. Did you say you wanted to answer it or you wanted clarification? Because that bit was cut out for me.
Yep. What you say?
I didn't hear a word of that. As in, I heard it, but I didn't understand a word you said.
Wait, I just want to say, I've only heard... I can see you going green, but the only words I've heard from you are word. So I have no idea what sentence you just said.
Is Discord being a funny? Okay, we need the YouTube chat and we need the Discord chat to tell me what the heck is going on. Because I have no idea what's going on.
Throw it
So
back.
far, I've heard funny, heck is going on, and no idea.
So Akizuki can hear me. Oh, it's apparently Ruin is saying it's your machine, Dr. Clark.
Okay.
Well, it won't be Clark's machine because my phone's doing it as well.
That is very strange. But so it's apparently not everybody that.
Perhaps it's just on Discord.
Yeah, it's not. But it doesn't need to be everybody either. It seems to be just a few people, rather than that is. I guess we're just having issues today. We're just having issues. But yeah, so the Annapolis. So I'll have to. So the Annapolis class is, but it's okay on YouTube apparently. So it does seem to be Discord, but only. Dr. Clark Foxo, try disconnecting and reconnecting to the Rambling Zone. That might fix it. That usually does it normally. So there's Dr. Clark, there's Foxo. Jolly good. How am I coming through now?
Hello.
5x5, 10x10, over there and round again. How much of that did you get? Can they not
The
hear me?
famous Grand Pacer test is a multi-stage anaerobic
I
fitness
can
test.
hear you fine. I've been able to hear you two fine. But I need to know if you can hear me.
No, I can.
Right, okay. Off we go.
We can't like Jackatay can. Like Jackatay can while they're on the can.
Okay, so. Right, so back to the question. The Annapolis class destroyer. Well, technically, it's the Annapolis class destroyer escort to give it its proper title. It was built for the Canadian Navy, and they were very specifically leaning into their ASW escorts. That is what they are. They are there to provide anti-submarine warfare. to the Canadian Navy. That is their job. They are not designed to engage air threats. They have 3-inch guns for basic self-defense, but they are not designed to engage air threats in anything other than last-ditch self-defense. They are basically dedicated, almost in totality, to that ASW role. With a Sea King ASW helicopter, Limbo ASW mortars, and homing torpedoes aboard ship. In regards to narrowed into patrol role rather than ocean-going warship, no, they are ASW ocean-going warships. Their job would probably be to guard against penetration of the Canadian coastal, past the Canadian continental shelf, into the Canadian exclusive maritime zone by Warsaw Pact boats, which is definitely an open ocean Atlantic role. Yes, it's not we're crossing the Atlantic with the convoys, but it's still we are operating in the open ocean against Soviet submarines. Anyone else got any points on that, Alex? I know you usually have a good angle on things like this. Okay, so Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
No, I said Alex. Dr. Clark. Have we lost Dr. Clark? I feel like we have. Whoops. Okay, I guess we will just have to carry on. Bonewheel Boy testing the cooldown time. So I guess I'll have another YouTube question. Steve Clark. You just discussed, this was in relation to the whole question about procurement, that the Type 83 being a Royal Navy equivalent to an Arleigh Burke. Why, oh why, should the RN be aiming to match a design that is 30 years old? The RN needs to surpass that. First of all, I was giving an example of a multi-mission destroyer that is well known and is in service, and the design of and derivatives of that design are in service with numerous navies worldwide. With the Burke Flight 3 being in service with the US Navy, to give the most recent example of that platform with the US, and various derivatives of that platform being in service with nations such as Japan and South Korea. It was not so much to say it's what the RN needs to match, it was more just an example. It was a very clear, well-known example of a large, multi-mission capable destroyer. To give an example of one end of a capability spectrum. That's all it was.
Even then, the Block 3...
I'm sorry, I've missed everything because for some reason Discord decided that my microphone would be my headphones, and my headphones would be my microphone for some reason.
But yes, Foxo, you were going to say something?
And even then, the Block 3 Arleigh Burkes are still some of the most capable ships on the planet in their role.
In the multitude of roles they can fulfill.
Yeah. They're sort of in the same position as the Abrams. The Block 3s don't have all that in common with the original Arleigh Burkes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the Flight 3 is just leagues ahead of original Flavor Burke.
Yeah, so it's like, you could argue the Royal Navy should be looking at trying to get some of the second Arleigh Burke Block 3. Because it's the best at its planet at its job.
Yeah, like I say, the Type 83 could run a gamut from Type 45 but warmed over to something equivalent to a Burke, and it could fall anywhere on that spectrum.
No, it can't. Fleet, you've forgotten something. What does 40 mean in British terminology?
Yes, I know what 40 means, I know what 80 means. However, this was a discussion related to British procurement, and it was saying that, yes, it might be called an 83, but, I mean, for example, 82, which was Bristol,
no.
She was...
Yes, Bristol. What did she have on her that wasn't just air defense? What did she have as well as air defense missiles?
She had a car, didn't she, and a bunch of other testbed systems.
Yes. And as a class, they were all supposed to have that. They were supposed to have a mixture of those systems.
Oh, yes, the
Whereas the
multi-mission.
42s were just... The 42s are built around Sea Dart. The 45 is built around Sea Viper.
Yes, I am aware of that. However, I was
You
not.
do realize that? Do you realize the moment if they've been switched to having Mark 41 VLS, they would automatically have been redesignated as 80s.
That's not the point. That's not the point at all. That's not the point I'm trying to make.
It is the point.
No, that's not the point, though. The point we're trying to make, or the original point with the question was that Type 83 could be anything from a design that has 90 cells for Sea Viper and Cam to something that might have Sea Viper Cam, that might have like 120 cells for Sea Viper and Cam along with 40 strike length cells for Mark 41. And
no, it can't. It has to have more than air defense cells, so it cannot be. This is the point. Then it would be called a 40. If it had only air defense missiles, it would be called a 40. And it would have to be.
But you and I both know that the UK government, well, given procurement the way it works, tends to foobar things in spectacular fashion.
No, not on that side of the phone. There's a reason they can't.
You can translate Sea Dodders. I suppose you are serving with the Navy.
They can't. They can't. At the moment, it's got that designation, and realistically, giving it that designation was the cleverest political maneuver the Royal Navy could make at that period to make sure they got decent ships. The moment it got given an AT designation, it means it has to be a general purpose asset, which means it has to have more than just air defense missiles.
Right.
As a capability.
I'm going to bring up my friendly neighborhood jargon translator because he thinks I know what I'm trying to say, which I've summoned the jargon translator in attack mode. The fleet jargon translator.
Just from listening what Fleet's trying to say is, I think, again, on the point of procurement of what he thinks Type 83 might end up being on a spectrum from warmed over Type 45 with a few strike length cells plastered on to a completely new design with lots of cells for different...
But that isn't what he just said.
Yeah, I know that's not what he said, but I'm thinking that's what he meant from the previous procurement question that you weren't here from.
Yes, that might have been what he meant, but that's not what he said. And this is the thing. This is the point. It's a case of Fleet. You're calling into sports, but that's because again, you've said something and you haven't meant it. And I'm responding to what you've said, and I can only respond to what you said. I'm not a mind reader.
It's like what Foxo put, perhaps rather bluntly earlier, but accurately. We have to go for what the words. You say's meanings are not necessarily what you intend.
But I would also point out that I didn't actually know. I thought 83 just meant bigger ship. I didn't.
No, it doesn't. It means general purpose asset.
Well, that, like I say, I can't put my words into a sense with general purpose assets if I didn't know that's what it meant. So again,
it's literally a Wikipedia article explaining all these things.
Well, that doesn't mean just because something exists doesn't mean I've read it.
Shall we go through all the type numbers?
No.
Please do,
for the audience.
Doddus, I think it'd be good, and you think you and I would enjoy it. So let's do that, Doddus.
Yes.
I've got.
Yes.
All right, fine. Get on with it.
Type 10s.
Ooh, fun ones.
Well, type 10.
No, I want to get quick.
Well, type 1Xs, type 10s are the ASWs originally, but they ran out in the 60s, and that's why they got moved to the type 20s.
So going for that, type 20s are ASW frigates.
Yeah.
Type 30s.
General purpose frigates, as defined in 2015, light frigates.
And Type 40s, air defense destroyers.
Yes.
I haven't seen the 50s, 60s, or 70s, but I'm sure they're there.
50s were supposed to be land attack ships with guns, never built. 60s were aircraft direction frigates, still is a designation, lasts from the battle class, the weapon class conversions. Type 70s were supposed to be a land attack missile ship. Type 80s are general purpose ships. Again, they can be either destroyers or sloops, depending on their role, but multi-role. Type 90s, uncrewed assets.
That wasn't that bad, Foxo, and actually it's pretty informative.
That's fine.
We've all learned something today.
Yes, right. So,
I find it disturbing. I know that off by the top of my head.
Isn't this to a degree literally your job, though, to know those designations?
Yeah, that's kind of something you would expect Dr. Clark to know.
It's also something my dad literally was quizzing me over when I was 4 years old over the dinner table. So yeah.
Ruinon asks, YouTube... No, that wasn't Ruinon, sorry. Minecraft Watcher asks, what if all British battleships, pre-dreadnoughts, dreadnoughts, and super dreadnoughts become line class in 1914? Oh, that's going to be...
Sorry, say again?
What if all British battleships, pre-dreadnoughts, dreadnoughts, and super dreadnoughts become the line class battleships in 1914? Fuel crisis!
Fuel crisis, yes, but...
The ones that can run are going
crisis.
to... Yeah, fuel and shell crisis. But once they get them
their
running...
internal stores...
Yeah, you can base...
Right, so technically speaking, the shell crisis isn't a problem.
Yeah,
You'll need to ramp up production, but we've already mentioned there's going to be a fuel crisis, but say you can only get 10 to 12 of these ships going.
Yeah, like you could strip
That's all you need.
Yeah, you could
and that
strip
means
the
all
others.
the rest can have fuel taken out of them temporarily,
shells,
and ammunition taken from them.
And spares.
That's
honestly,
more than enough.
Honestly, given the amount of pre-dreadnoughts you're replacing, you could break... You're going to have at least 80 of these ships overall.
Right.
Like, it's mad. Like, you are going to be able to break up so many of these ships to find out what makes them tick. Just because of how much
you probably don't even have
got.
to break up that many of them.
But you're going to have to, because given the tech, you're going to have to test... You're going to have to test some of it to destruction. You're going to want to examine some of it, test some of it, then test some of it to destruction, then shoot at some of them to find out what makes their armor tick.
Incredibly briefly just looking at it, you've got 22 dreadnoughts in the water in 1914. You've got 13 dreadnoughts building. Battlecruisers aren't mentioned, I don't think, in this.
Nope.
No, they're not. And you've got 40 pre-dreadnoughts.
Yeah, that's enough to poke.
So even if we just go off hulls in the water, that's 66.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, 62.
Yeah.
It's 9 battlecruisers plus 1 building.
Yeah.
August 14th.
Yeah, but it doesn't mention battlecruisers in the question, so I'm just ignoring those for now.
Yeah, that basically...
No, but also doesn't mention... it does mention battleships, so basically then you have to go with the definition of battleships.
Yeah, well, it explicitly also mentions... It mentions of all British battleships, pre-dreadnoughts, dreadnoughts, and super dreadnoughts.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm not touching on battlecruisers.
Which does mean they've been left alone.
No, battlecruisers. Dreadnought is an all big gun ship.
Yes.
It can be a battleship or a battlecruiser.
But it's added.
But it's also the caveat of initially the battleships.
Yeah, it's added as a qualifier. Yeah,
it's more meaning this than that.
And also,
that's why I'm.
And it does give the interesting operational flexibility that the battlecruiser force is available and is still coal-fired, which does.
They're slower though.
They are. But it does mean that they can go to places where perhaps the infrastructure isn't quite for a oil-fired warship isn't quite so readily available as the infrastructure in the UK is, even though it is still somewhat limited compared to what would be available in 1939. So, for example, the Invincibles and Indefatigables might end up in the Mediterranean to support Gallipoli, along with perhaps one of the Lions as flag, because they run on coal and will be easier to supply.
Actually, the Mediterranean is one of the few areas where they can deploy oil-powered ships because of Alexandria and the Suez, and the fact you have an oil supply depot for ships there.
So, for all the record, just incredibly rough calculation. The Royal Navy all of a sudden has 55,800 16-inch shells.
Yeah, we can probably, and honestly, given the fact of how many lines we now have, what was it, 66?
62.
62, so let me think.
And that's excluding converting ships that are currently on slips.
So,
If we throw that in, you're now up to 75.
I think if we,
But going off 62 because
Yeah.
it doesn't mention about slips.
Yeah, so what I would say is,
Right.
out of that 62, I think you're gonna break, so, 62, let me think, so, I think you're gonna aim for 12 ships kept operational, because that's 4 full battle squadrons of Lions. So that means 10 are going to be broken up in totality, and that's basically for all the 9 yards. That's for the spares. That's for spares. That's for shells. That's
Fleet.
for fuel oil.
Fleet.
Yes.
How many ships do you think are in a battle squadron?
4.
8.
So-
It's World War One.
Yeah. And also, you said 12, giving 4 squadrons. That would mean only 3 per squadron.
Sorry, I got the
Yeah.
Christ. I'm pulling a YouTube
So,
microphone. I'm getting
technically-
me things mixed up.
To be fair though, even with that, that's 32 ships, so you've still got another 30 ships lying around.
Yes, that does still
if you're
mean
doing full squadrons of 8.
Yeah, so that does still
Yeah.
so that does still mean you can break up 10 to give spares. You can then break up 10 to test their components to destruction. And then that leaves you 10 sort of in reserve.
And is it going
Can
off
I-
the... Sorry, go on, Sea Dotters.
So I was just going to pose a point here. Is it which design study of line are we going with?
I'm assuming 19th, the very first one, the 19th...
Let's
what's it
assume
called?
the baseline of the thing, the one
Yeah.
they ordered in 1939.
Yeah, we go with that.
So they're coming with their own walrus aircraft then.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, yes. So again, like this is the thing, and also there's enough of them again to do the same thing, to flight test, to break up the parts, to test for destruction. This is the advantage of bringing things back on this scale. You've got the
Please.
spares to do that.
You are
A,
missing.
the Lions would be carrying spare engines for their Walrus anyway, so you don't really need to do that with the Walrus to break them apart. And B, in the nicest way, having spent as much time wandering around a Walrus as I have, whilst I would love to say it's a really modern aircraft by 1939 standards, I'm fairly sure you don't need to do much testing to destruction in 1914 to be able to figure it out.
No,
Aren't short-
no. I'm
Remind me,
aware.
aren't stuff like short building, like biplane flying boats at this point?
Not,
Yes,
not yet. Not yet.
The only thing on that aircraft that would be an issue would be the engine, but they already know enough about the engines to go, oh, so that's how you do it. That's how you stop the
Well,
engine
there
oil
is
pulling
another-
at the bottom of the engine and catching fire.
Also, high octane
We-
fuel.
Panelist humans. I think I didn't hear this say that. I think you're missing something very, very important. The Lions will have an indigenous battleship grade fuse/detonator that will highlight the
Fuck
problems.
me, she's got
and
it.
sidestep the problems of Green Boy,
Fuck me, she's got it.
which means Jutland is going to be a absolute massacre.
I don't
Yes.
think
You're
you
getting
even.
ahead of yourself.
In the nicest way, Jutland isn't going to be a massacre. In the nicest way, the Battle of Dogger Bank is going to be a massacre.
Yeah, but-
Because A, these ships can do 30 knots so they can catch the German High Seas Fleet. B, they have radar control. And C, they have working shells that can fire a lot longer range because they can angle them up higher than any of the German High Seas Fleet can. So, in the nicest way, the German High
Wait.
Seas Fleet gets wiped out of the Battle of Dogger Bank.
Yeah, because
There's
he-
no Jutland.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
because here's the thing. It gets better.
Dog about it, though.
No, oh no, there is.
the fleet.
No,
let,
there
let,
is.
let Foxo go, let Foxo go, please, please.
Yes.
Let her explain about
They're
them.
not going to wipe out the Germans because the Germans are going to take one look at that, take one look at Admiral Tirpitz' plan and go, that won't work.
This no longer works.
And the German fleet will quite happily mess around in the Baltic for a while because the Lions can't punch into the Baltic. That's still suicide for them.
They probably
Honestly?
can.
No, it's
they
not.
probably could punch in.
Because they can now operate with some of the larger RN scout cruisers as screen and some of the largest and most capable destroyers of the period with them. they can break through the Skagerrak doing, as the fleet speed, 25, 26 knots. And they can just maintain that.
Fleet speed doesn't help you when you're running through a minefield.
That's what the minesweepers are for.
Yeah. And also, in nice way, that's what the battle cruisers, that's what the Invincible class are for. You fill them with cork, you seal them up, and you have them charge through in front of you.
That's cruel, Dr. Clark. That's cruel. Well, justified, but cruel.
It actually makes the Invincibles useful.
Honestly, don't even use the Invincibles. They're actually useful overseas at this point still. Take the Indefatigables. They're just useless.
Yeah.
Use them instead. Although,
apart from HMS New Zealand, because she'll just go through the minefield, not be hurt, and then you'll find all the mines that close behind her.
Yeah. What I would say is, leaving that aside, the British could... There is a scenario where the British can jump the German fleet, and that is if they very publicly telegraph, but in a way that doesn't sound forced, they are having serious issues fueling these ships and getting them, to go, and basically announce, and basically announce to the world, these ships arrived dry, we're having to rush the fuel in, we can't operate them right now, and doing their level best to ensure that remains the narrative and is not broken, and this is going to depend on the success of that. If that is successful, the British can then operate their battle cruisers in the North Sea. What will then happen is the Germans will go, the British have no battleships that can catch us, as in there's no battleships at all, and the battle cruisers are out. Even if they suspect a trap, the fact there is intel telling them that the battleships cannot operate is enough of a gap, especially since they won't know anything about stuff like radar. They are going to go, okay, this is a chance worth taking. If we can kill the battle cruisers, that is a chance worth taking. And at that point, then, you can jump them with the Lions if the Lions are fueled and ready to go.
No, fleet. No. Because you haven't handed the Germans an idiot ball there. You've handed them the moon in Despicable Me 1. Because the Germans have their own intelligence networks in the UK.
They didn't even know their bloody codes were broken.
They know the UK has oil, and they can refine fuel. The Germans are going to look at that. You're trying to bullshit us.
No, the Germans will know how much fuel the British can move logistically through the British Isles. It's not as much as people think in this period. It's not production that's the problem, guys. It's movement, and it's movement. It's the logistics of moving it, and then of fueling the Lions.
Germans aren't stupid.
They're going to know the British network is not sufficient to fuel all of these ships. Not all 30 of them. Not in a reasonable time. If they're dry.
What?
No.
The British are not stupid. If the British have the ability to move them, they have fuel. Unless you don't want them being... You want the Royal Navy to just sit on their hands and not do anything with them.
For a chance...
Germans aren't stupid.
Well, for a chance...
Yes, but the Germans aren't that well informed, Foxo. They don't have that much access to good intel. In fact, most of their intel network is thoroughly compromised in Britain. Actually, even more so than isn't compromised in World War II. And in World War II, we actually were their intelligence force in Britain, because it was literally, there was one guy in Portugal who was running a fake intelligence network, and one guy in the UK who was running a fake intelligence network. And there was one guy in a couple of other countries. In fact, quite a large chunk of the German intelligence networks, which they were giving out medals and awards for, and money for people to go visit dentists, etc., because they were exceedingly ill, was actually a massive conspiracy.
What I would also say, Foxo, is that you talk about them not, not moving the admirals and sitting on their, sorry, not moving the admirals, sorry, the Lions and sitting on their hands. Honestly, that ruse may sound far-fetched, but for a chance to lure the High Seas fleet into a position where it thinks just the British battle cruisers can operate and move, and then for a chance to pounce on that fleet and annihilate it in totality, the British would actually take that bet.
British would just keep them in Scapa Flow, just have them doing the exercise and gunnery work in Scapa Flow.
But they
That's
would.
all. They just keep them out. They just keep them out
tow
of the way.
them there, though.
They wouldn't.
They tow them there to keep the ruse up that, oh, we can't fuel these ships, guys. The fuel's not in the UK. Can't move them on their own power. We're towing them.
No, because in nicest way, the Germans wouldn't believe a ruse that we had no fuel. They'd believe a ruse that we were pretending we had fuel when we had limited amount of fuel. So we'd literally take them under their own fuel power and pretend that's us showing how much that's showing us, the quality we have, and they then believe, okay, once we got them there, we didn't have the fuel, but actually we had quite a lot of store fuel up there.
Yeah.
Again, it's some of the advantages we have going on.
Right.
Yeah,
So.
but at that point, the Germans don't do fleet's harebrained plan because even a limited amount of fuel is still fuel. Anyway, do I want to hop on to the next question?
Yes.
I
Bone meal.
like being an advocate for Germany, but
Yeah, it is. But it is one of those things that it's basically impossible to, you're trying to judge the mentality of people who are long dead. Can't. Yeah, bone meal.
You don't get to that station by being dumb.
Yeah, bone meal. Sometimes, but yes, most of the time you are correct. Bone meal boy asks, on the 12th of December 1939, all British forces from the Battle of the Falkland Islands appear alongside Harwood's cruisers, except for Canopus. Poor Canopus being left out of that battle. Who takes command and what happens? Well, the British forces from the Battle of the Falkland Islands take one look at the Germans.
Well, a senior Royal Navy officer down there would be a Rear Admiral Sandy Woodward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and
if all the forces from the Falklands take command down there, it'd be Sandy Woodward.
Yeah, and
because he's the Rear Admiral Royal Navy.
Alongside Harwood's cruisers, so that's
the very simple thing.
That's
the Rear Admiral Sandy Woodward would take command.
But yeah, of course he'll be briefed by Harwood. Of course, on what's going on, and that is a German ship. Can we kill it with the Invincibles? Yes,
is this Falklands War? Is this Battle of Falkland Islands or Falklands War?
On the Let's reset itself again.
Battle of the Falkland Islands. So that's.
Why does it keep doing this to me?
So that's the two Invincibles, the various cruisers. Obviously, poor old Canopus is aground, so she doesn't come. But that's just overkill for the kid dealing with the Graf Spee. She dies. She dies aggressively hard, really quick. She's dead. She is so dead.
So you haven't got Sandy Woodward then?
If I haven't got Sandy Woodward, then it's Michael Clapp.
You haven't got.
What? Why is Michael Clapp there?
Well, you said you haven't got Sandy Woodward.
Well, yeah, but why is Michael?
Because it's the Battle of Falkland Islands fleet, not Falklands War fleet.
Yeah, Battle of the Falkland Islands, Dr. Clark. It's the two Invincibles.
Oh, then
1914.
It's the battle. Is that not the Falklands War? Oh, well, then it's the admiral, the vice admiral, who takes command.
Does Harwood outrank Sturdy at that point, or does Sturdy outrank Harwood?
No, Sturdy's a vice admiral.
Yeah, I always forget.
Harwood's a commodore.
Yeah, so there we go. It's Sturdy, and Sturdy will be informed by Harwood. The German ship over there. Oh, German ship over there. What's it called? It's called Graf Spee. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna go kill that. Come with me. Come with me. We're gonna go kill it.
In case of you're invincible class. Yes, I should be able to beat you.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be one of those weird ones. But yeah, basically Invincible dies. I'm gonna take a 2-minute break quickly. I'll be back in just a second. Talk amongst yourselves, folks.
It's hot miking then. Run on your hot miking, Ed.
I'm just going to mute Unon.
Well, I was gonna
She was
see if they
king in
did
there
that.
a lot. And that was her away from the mic, so.
They've done it themselves.
Good. Anyway, how are y'all?
Not bad at all.
So, what's the next question?
Well, Fleet's not here, but we could do so.
What's the next question?
Anyway, so we just
Do
did
you
the
wanna
one from
be
Bowman Boy. So that would be
a-
gunnery
Oh,
off.
it's
That would be
got-
gunnery
This
officers
thing has
one.
really started drawing me.
What is your
That's what
opinion on the
the-
E1 Tracer? Do you think it's not as capable as an AEW as the Gatnet AEW for its time? Fox, I can't hear a word you're saying.
He asked us to not. Yes, I mangled my PC cable.
Yes, I know you did. I'm just explain so that you can try and say it again, which you've done so.
And I just posted 2 pictures of the damage.
Yeah. Still kind of curious how you did that.
It takes skills.
So you see that little white part? That's the power cable.
Yes.
And the metal bit, the power it goes in. You'll notice it's got a minor problem.
But so here's a question: why is this that much of a problem? Did you not just get a new charging cable?
Dragon,
So?
220-watt power cable.
And
Look, so what the frig? Have you been chewing on that?
it does look.
I know
I,
you're a
was-
fox, but
I
don't
genuinely did.
chew on
won-
these things.
I did genuinely did wonder if it was a dog had been chewing on it.
No, she's called Foxo, remember?
And it doesn't prevent her dog chewing on it.
No, but it doesn't mean she might have chewed on it herself.
Right. Okie dokie. I'm back.
Fleet, we're currently
No.
considering whether Foxo's been chewing on her power cable.
All right. To say Foxo, we're going to move right along into the next
I
question.
haven't
No,
been
go-
chewing on it, okay?
Go,
I just might have
Fleet, go have
accidentally
a look at the
melted it.
picture. Go
I
have a look at the pictures in the rambling text.
I have had a look at the picture of the rambling text. I think that's just
Do
heavy.
they or do they not look like they've been chewed? It's been chewed on.
No, it looks like exceptionally heavy usage at certain obscure angles. I get it.
See? He gets it. He gets it.
Like, I've had cables in similar nick before. Like, when you use them, like, you're lying down or you're sitting down and you're resting it on your chest. It just gets bent one direction and continuous usage just tends to lead to that. It happens.
Yes, I have shattered the rubberized polymer. That's not the point. But I'm having issues getting a new cable, not because of the connector, but because of the power break in the connector. There's a high voltage power supply. And I had to order online.
Right.
And it's bloody expensive. Like £45 expensive.
Right.
No, the issue, Tima, is the fact that it's a high-end gaming laptop, which means it only takes that charger. It doesn't charge off USB-C. USB.
Right, folks, can we circle back to ramblings, if that's all right?
The Gannett versus Tracer question, but honestly, the answer is
I'll read it out and then I'll let you finish that statement. Typical Gunner Officer asks, what is your opinion on the E1 Tracer? Do you think it's not as capable as an AEW as the Gannett AEW for its time? As Dr. Clock is probably about to say, E1's better.
okay. So here's the thing: the Tracer is what comes first, and then comes, if I'm not mistaken, the Tracker.
Yeah, because E1 has the fixed radome, Tracker has the first generation of rotating radomes, I believe. No,
The Gannett comes in,
yeah, sorry, go on.
and the Gannett comes in after the Tracker, after the Tracer, before the Tracker.
Oh, no, sorry, no, Tracker is first. Sorry. Tracker is the platform this is based on, but it's an ASW asset. The thing that came before it was the what was it? What was the thing that came before it? It doesn't. It was one of the not purpose-built airborne early warning aircraft that came before it, but its replacement was actually Hawkeye. The replacement for Tracer was Hawkeye.
I'd say, in terms of ASW, Gannet does have an advantage over the E1, that sort of generation of aircraft in terms of ASW. In terms of AEW, the later model Gannets are better than the Tracker, but they're not as good as the Hawkeye.
Well,
by a long way.
Well, Trackers. Well, as I've said, Tracker is not a early warning platform. It's the ASW version of the root aircraft of both
Tracer. I mean, sorry, yeah. Tracer. That's Tracer. Oh, Tracer. Sorry, I called it the wrong one. Basically, the later versions of the Gannet, later system versions of the Gannet airborne early warning are better than Tracer, but that's because Tracer is replaced by Hawkeye, whereas the British don't replace.
I'd say it's horses for courses between Tracer and Gannet. I think Tracer is better as command and control for a carrier's air wing, and has a slightly better radar overall, because it is just a bigger and better radar on Tracer. But for what the British need, Tracer wouldn't work. Gannet early warning does. So there is that. And also, it's not trying to do, and Gannet also isn't tasked to do, command and control for a carrier's air group like Tracer and later Hawkeye are. So again, I think they're not directly comparable systems. So trying to compare them doesn't really work. Right, what's next? Polemos. What would you consider in hindsight were the biggest governmental decisions of the post-war decade? The foundation of the NHS. Pretty much without a doubt. The foundation of the NHS. It was one of the biggest shake-ups of the social and economic fabric of the country. Ever. Dr. Clark, have you got something? For what your biggest
Can't really argue that.
Damn.
I would put forth the first stages of devolution of government powers in the UK.
Did those happen in the post-war decade?
They started in the post-war decade.
Huh. That's another good option as well. Okay, so now we have the reverse of the previous question. On 7th of December 1914, all the British forces from the Battle of the River Plate appear alongside Sturdy's ships. How does this affect the Battle of the Falkland Islands, and how are they used after that? So you've got Exeter, Ajax, and Achilles. They are, by some margins, excluding the Invincibles, the most powerful ships in the South Atlantic at that point. Because they've got modern 8 and 6-inch guns, they're incredibly quick for the time period, and they've got excellent fire control. I don't know if any of them have radar at that point. I'm not sure. But they have good crews, Exeter's still a good gunnery ship, and yeah, that's going to lead to... So, Alex, once Sturdy's been briefed on what these ships are capable of, what's he going to do with them, do you reckon? Because he's always been an aggressive admiral.
What do you mean, what's he going to do with them? In nicest way, after the Graf Spey's been dealt with...
No. The other way around. It's the other question. We're reversing it.
So he gets the ships from the Battle of River Plate coming back to him at Invincible.
Yes.
And back to...
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to go hunting. Because in nicest way, Exeter alone could take out the Grass Space battle group. And she's a cut price county.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone add in the Leanders.
Mm-hmm.
Does Colgan get more kills in that case?
Possibly. It is going to absolutely body Graf Space Squadron, though. Just utterly. In terms of how they used after, they're going to be dragged back to the UK for examination. Specifically those very, very nice 8-inch guns Exeter's carrying. Are we out of Discord questions, Ruinon, or have we lost Ruinon? We have lost Ruinon. Okay. So I need to make sure I do that. So where did we get to in terms of Discord questions? We got to E1 Tracer, so let me find that. Okay. Where's the green dots? Where's the green dots?
Then stick a yellow circle on it. Sweet. There we go. Well, wood's done, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. We have not got as far with the... Let's see, is that how he does it? Yes, it is. Not quite how he does it, but it'll do for now. I'll have to do it a different way next time. What if Hedge Miss Furious appeared in her 1945 appearance right when she was commissioned in the First World War? Well, everyone's going to wonder what the heck just happened to the large armoured cruiser. Sorry, large light cruiser, I should say. And then all of the bright sparks in the Royal Naval Air Service are going to start getting stars in their eyes and bright idea fairies.
Going to be very happy with it, basically.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very, very happy Fleet Air Arm noises. Okay, so get that. Yeah, but honestly, if you've got Furious as she is, she can basically launch any aircraft excellent at that point, apart from some of the more interesting Handley Page and Vickers bombers on the drawing boards, which may actually make a torpedo attack against the High Seas Fleet viable even without the Cuckoo. Because there are land-based torpedo-carrying aircraft that you can use, but none of them that could operate from the excellent carriers at the time. Full flight deck length Furious, however, is a different matter entirely.
It's an interesting scenario, definitely.
Yeah, but how it be used is one of those things that's it's a little bit vague. But it is definitely an interesting scenario. They can use her for operations, basically in any theatre they want to put her. You can fly off pretty much any aircraft off of her. Yeah, she's just useful. And she's gonna point the way for what to do with Courageous and Glorious. Like this is how you want them to end up. Paul Amos, given that the panel are the next generation decision-making influencers, I wouldn't go that far, Paul. What would you like to see defense-wise in the UK and NATO overall?
This is where a number of us very much disagree on things.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Got a whole video
Oh, I
coming up
just-
on
I'll put in
SDSR and
one
future
thing.
stuff, so I'm just going to keep quiet and let everyone else be in trouble.
well, int in that concept, does that mean inclusive, the UK and NATO, or does that mean, or is int short for something else at that point?
No, I think it just means in the UK.
Oh yeah, is that an extra T? Yeah, it might be an extra T. Yeah, I think the T is just I think T is just not meant to be there. Well, defense wise, I would like to see the early plans being put in for the next generation of UK carriers. I'd like to see it being talked about now, even if they are decades away. I'd like to see that conversation happening and happening publicly. I'd like to see a commitment.
I'd imagine it is happening, just not publicly.
Yeah, but I'd like to see it happening publicly so that, we can actually get it out in the open. I'd like to see procurement increased of, where possible, all RN assets. And probably also, as Alex has suggested, let's stretch the Dreadnought production line to 6 boats, but build 2 of them as SSGNs. As that gives us added capability, and it's easy to do. Let's have 83 be as powerful as it can be. Let's have it, let's basically just go full hog and say Aegis and Mark 41 VLS galore. Just go full ham. Although, let's also have Sea Scepter and Cam as well, because we're British and we do want our own systems as well. But the reason I do also want some Mark 41 and Aegis to guide it is because it does give us that ability to reach out and touch certain spicy missiles that are arcing through the upper atmosphere. Further away than Cam can let us do it. And it's a proven system and it's reliable for that role. In regards to the land forces, I'd like to see us come to an agreement with a European partner in the short term to produce in the interim something like to build a factory that can produce something like Panther. Probably Rheinmetall coming to an agreement with them to build up a factory in collaboration with BAE, with the understanding that that factory will then be used after the production order for Leopards to replace Challenger 3, whenever that comes about, is done. That factory will then be used to procure a next generation art piece of kit after Leopard. That will be... Actually, no, if I'm doing it this way, I don't want the latest and greatest. I just want something to... Probably a new build version of Challenger 3 now. I'm thinking about it. Just working through the logistics in my head of exactly what I want. Yeah, so work with Rheinmetall to help build out our stocks of Challenger 3. And then, after that's done, that factory then needs to go into building a proper next generation MBT. A British equivalent to something like Leopard. Not Leopard. Panther. So not completely new, but the same thing that Challenger 1, that Challenger 2 was a Challenger 1, and Challenger 3 is Challenger 2. It's a next generation tank that uses as a base point a previous generation vehicle, but doesn't keep many of the same parts, or... It's a new vehicle, basically. So, like, Challenger 1 was a new vehicle to Chieftain, Challenger 2 was a new vehicle to Challenger 1, but they built on the design that had come before. Same thing. Same thing here.
Yes, and on the Chieftain's Challenger, but...
There's not as many crossovers as I thought there were when I looked into it.
What? Well, no, there was basically none at all. Like Challenger 1 to Challenger 2, yeah, there was some interoperability of parts, something like 20%. But between Chieftain and Challenger, even less.
Yeah, but
Unless you're going off some of the export
Oh, you
variants.
could
oh,
say even
I thought you were going the other way, Dragon, and saying the worst. Oh no, you're yeah.
No,
you're,
no.
you're backing me up. Fair enough. Yeah, carry on
Yeah.
then. Carry on then. But yeah, so same thing here. You build off what's come before, but it's a new vehicle. The final, and again, so just to finish up my wrap up on the army, we need to maintain that armored core of 1, ideally 2 divisions. Not a full division, or not 2 full divisions, but that core armored, mechanized, and support infrastructure of those divisions that then become, that one of them becomes the forward deployed rapid reaction force at any one time. The other one is back in the UK in reserve, in refit, doing that. So you rotate them. Ideally, you'd want 3, because then you can surge 3, and you've got then 1 in deep reserve, 1 in sort of in the UK on rapid reaction standby, and 1 out on the eastern flank in in Poland, in the Baltic states, possibly in Ukraine if they're in NATO in the future. And then, of course, we should also maintain the rapid reaction forces like the Royal Marines contingent supposed to go up with the Netherlands to Norway, and we need to maintain the sea lift capability to do that. So we should, if we are going to get rid of Albion and Bulwark, let's get ourselves, if we can, very quickly, let's get ourselves some new LHAs. Possibly take the Ocean Principle again. So build a ship to civilian standards for military use. Because that did work quite well with Ocean. So I think doing that again for a pair of ships to replace Albion and Bulwark is not a bad idea. But make them full LHAs. Sorry, LHDs.
I mean, you're forgetting the most important thing, though.
I've not gotten to the Air Force yet.
No. Have you mentioned personnel?
I was getting to that. I was going to get to that at the end of it because it applies to all branches, but I will get to that. I'm just getting to the end of. I just want to get to the end of that because that applies to all the branches.
Okay.
So for the Air Force, we desperately need to
replace Tornado.
Well, Tornado has been.
You mean Typhoon? Or
yeah, because Typhoon was air defense. Was very much an air defense fighter.
Typhoon has technically replaced Tornado.
Yes.
In the role Tornado did, it is not particularly good at. We need an aircraft like Tornado that has all the bells and whistles to do modern ground strike, especially at low altitude again. We don't have that. Because Typhoon fulfills that capability on a technicality.
Okay, I think honestly, I think starting the procurement for something like that is not a bad idea. I definitely think
because someone says the F-35 can do it, no, the F-35 can't.
No, the F-35
because the F-35 will have other jobs.
Yeah. And also, even if the F-35 is free to do it, it's precision strike rather than I'm going to ruin this entire area here with cluster bombs. And then run away laughing. Which is what Tornado could do.
I would like to point out we have replaced our cluster bombs with Brimstone.
Yes, would you... But yes, so... we need to invest in a land-based missile defense system for the UK around key point targets. Designed to deal with air, cruise missile, and limited ballistic missile throw weight strikes. That is an absolute essential. It's not. It's not supposed to be a counter to a nuclear threat. It's supposed to be a counter to a rogue actor firing a single ballistic missile at a point target.
That's an easy win as well, actually.
Yeah. And it's also against massed cruise missile strikes and penetrations by Russian bomber aircraft and maritime patrol aircraft.
Yeah, it's an easy win. That you buy the SAMP-T system from the French, uses the same missiles as our Type 45s,
Yep.
and they're getting upgraded next year.
And you work that into procurement by building a factory to build it here in the UK. Say, look, we will happily buy the designs from you, France, and we will pay a premium for that, for the privilege to build it in our own country, but we need to build it in our own country. Because I know the French will drive a hard bargain, but it'll be worth it to bring some of that procurement over the channel. Let me think. So, I've done the Navy, done the Air Force, done the Army. Now, the final key thing here. We must massively restructure pay at all levels and quality of life for servicemen. Pay needs to be dramatically increased for enlisted personnel across all the services. It is not competitive enough in the current environment. It needs to be to serve in this current climate needs to be a well-paid job to encourage people to take it.
Well, you need more than that, but
that's the foundation.
You also need to improve actual conditions of being in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other thing. A complete gutting and relooking at how servicemen and women are based, barracked, just the quality of life generally when they're not in active frontline combat.
No.
What'd you say, Alex?
So who's next?
Anyone else got anything to add to what I've said? Anything I think should be done differently?
I'm keeping quiet because I've got a 2.5-hour video I'm working on the subject of future SDSR. So I think it's kind of rude if I didn't take up time here as well when I've got 2.5 hours.
And also,
I don't necessarily agree with Fox's point about needing a low-level strike aircraft.
We don't need a low-level aircraft. We need a strike aircraft.
Do we? Because as you said, the Eurofighter kind of already does that, but I'm not sure what
well.
It does it well enough, though. Also, you've then got the problem of, if you want that, we're probably not getting Tempest. Like, as much as there's a lot of stuff I might want, being realistic, Tempest is something I'm definitely more interested in than a ground attack plane.
Hopefully Tempest would replace Typhoon.
Yes, that is indeed
got a capability gap.
The problem is, do you really think the government would want to have two different aircraft in that regard? They're already annoyed that basically you've got Typhoon and 35 to a degree.
Wasn't this question an ideal world, basically? Because we should have more.
What would you like to see defense-wise in the UK and NATO overall? Not an ideal.
I would like to see a 3-aircraft fleet.
Oh, if we could actually get it, sure. But just my problem is I don't think we would.
If we got it, because a lot of the equipment you need for air-to-air combat, especially in the BVR world, is very different from the armament you need and the setups you need for ground attack.
There is a way forward here.
Go on.
You have Tempest/Typhoon F-35 and you can buy into the B-21.
That doesn't fulfill the same role.
You have your strike capability, and we were one of the few countries that can actually buy into it.
Yeah, but the 21's a different strike role to I think what Foxer is referring to here.
Yeah, but we don't have the economy or money to run something like that.
Well,
is it more specialised? We don't have the capability or economy to run multiple specialized aircraft. If we're going to have one specialized aircraft, the others have to be multi-role. We are not the United States. We do not have that economy.
I don't think it'll cost quite as much as anything, and I do think we definitely would have an economy to be able to do it if needed. Also, we're not saying 3 highly specialized things, because Tempest is primarily designed as an air-to-air fighter, but does have some multi-role capability. It's effectively the next generation Typhoon, which makes sense. You've got F-35, which is also to a degree multi-role. So this would more fill the specialist role than anything.
But she could use B-21 for.
Could you?
Would you use
It might be
B-21 on the tactical level? It's a strategic aircraft.
Right.
You still use it tactically.
Not really.
The kind of strikes you're looking to replace on the Tornado's low-level role are still well behind the lines interdictor strike. You can do that with a B-21.
I'm not necessarily sure those are the only roles Fox is referring to here.
Well, that was a role for the Tornado, interdictor strike behind enemy lines.
And also
blown up
airfields needed in a few different things, really, but...
Close air support...
Well, that's your Tempest and F-35.
But even then, close air support is going to be something that's going to have to develop later into any particular conflict, given the fact that, given the exceptionally heavy and dense anti-air belts of both NATO and Russia in any hypothetical conflict, flying near the front line, if you want an F-35 that's clean, or a B-21 Raider, or an F-22, without heavy jamming or other support, is...
The whole concept of how we're going to be doing CAS at the moment is changing a lot with the introduction of drones and multiple air defense systems. It's between TAC helicopters, drones, and multi-role strike aircraft, you have a lot of options for CAS that are survival or expendable.
Yes, but the issue is that the F-35 is functioning for the UK. It's specialized fighter aircraft.
I don't think Tornado's role is going to be replaced by any of the air fleet, I'm going to be honest. In terms of the close air support role, I think fundamentally it's going to come down to drones and missiles.
I don't think it is. I think
in fairness,
people are overinterpreting the fact
in fairness to Tornado. And in fairness to Tornado, in the Tornado's era, close air support was handled by Jaguar and Harrier. The only time you're using Tornado as in close air support role is when there's a lot of tanks and you need a lot of cluster bombs. But given we've replaced our cluster bombs with Brimstone, you can strap Brimstone on practically anything that flies in the minute.
Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things that it's unclear what the new close air support paradigm actually is. It's still not become apparent where that actually, what the actual paradigm is, because Ukraine is not...
It's quite fluid at the moment.
Yeah, Ukraine is not the sole example of modern war. It's not the sole arbitrator of what modern war is. And while it is showing some lessons of what might be the future of close air support, it's also showing some lessons that some things haven't changed. And what fires will be useful and what air roles will be useful and not useful in a Russia-NATO conflict is still up in the air. Not all of it, but especially murky areas like the ones we're discussing kind of are. But Foxo is right, perhaps, that some form of long-range interdiction asset behind the lines really is needed.
Also, to a degree, while it definitely makes sense to have some American, I do think it might be an idea to move somewhat away from the idea of so much going into American.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh
Which
yeah.
is why a European strike fighter would probably be the ideal. Or I don't.
Yeah. Right. So
So the only reason I mentioned the B-20, or never mind. So I was going to say the only reason I put forward the B-21 because it's there.
Mm.
Even if we build something completely different to it, it is something that can do it. And in fairness, a lot of our interdictor strike nowadays is handled by cruise missiles.
right. Yes. So next question. Izui is here, so I will actually answer this next question. Then I'll give her a chance them a chance to do their anecdote they've been wanting to do. Gunnery Officer asks, in terms of Cold War manpads, do you think the blowpipe is much better than the Red Eye or the very early Stinger variant? Same question for the Javelin. Is it better than the Stinger Post or RMP? In terms of Javelin versus Stinger and blowpipe versus Red Eye and early Stinger, they're not really comparable systems.
They're not equivalent, I don't think.
They're not equivalent. Blowpipe and Javelin are Sakalos guided. So they are guided by an operator manually onto a target. Red Eye and Stinger are fire and forget infrared seekers. They are both man-portable air defense missiles, but not in the same category. Which kind of makes them very hard to compare. Comparing Stinger to Strela and Igla is a much cleaner comparison, because they are literally the Russian and Soviet examples of short-range, shoulder-fired, infrared manpads. And so, with...
I think the only real difference in terms of... So I was going to say that the only real difference in terms of end target is Stinger and Red Eye you can countermeasure, blowpipe you can't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then blowpipe's much more difficult to actually get onto target.
Okay, so I am going to very quickly bring Zuikaku up so they can, the name gets me every time in the profile picture, so they can very quickly tell their anecdote, and then we can get back to the questions at hand.
Fleet, I'm just laughing my ass off that you keep calling me she.
I don't know, look, my mind is kerfuffled here.
Okay, so the anecdote I want to talk about is about the more civilian side of Imperial Japanese Navy operations, the fishing boats. So there's two actually, or I should say 1.5, because the first one is very fast. Basically, every time the Americans would raid Kure Harbor, they raided it, I think, 2 or 3 times. The big battleships would bring their guns up to open to fire Senshikidan shells. And every time they fired their big guns, the shockwave would just kill all the fish in the near vicinity, so they just all come up to the surface. So every time, what happens is, after all the American aircraft go away, the fishing fleet comes out, and they just take all that fish and sell it on the black market, because war rationing is funny. Why am I talking about fishing boats? Well, when I was working as a English language translator at Kure, I got my hands on this little document, which has... It's basically like a written document submitted by the captain of this fishing boat of basically his story. is submitted to the museum under an anonymous name. And what happened is we took a look at it, me and my group of like 10 dudes that always work after hours. God, sorting documents was not fun. We took a look at this and we just decided to read it because, hey, it's almost the end of the day. We're almost done. Let's just enjoy ourselves. And we read the absolute, like, this crew in this poor fishing boat went through absolute hell. So as you know, with the Doolittle raid, there was a fishing boat that was equipped with a really high power radio that sighted the American fleet and then proceeded to get obliterated. Well, that's just an example of the Japanese using civilian vessels for reconnaissance, minesweeping, and so on. This fishing vessel and fleet, I did confirm the name, I was right, it is the Sakuragan Maru.
Mm-hmm.
This little, I want to say 2,000 tonner? Actually, no, for a fishing boat, that's actually kind of big, but it's a 2,000 ton fishing boat. And they were stationed out of Kwajalein as part of the, I want to say 6th Fleet, because 6th Fleet is the submarine operations. And these civilian vessels were attached to the auxiliary fleets for auxiliary roles, like minesweeping and basically towing as tugs. And what happened is the Americans realized that Kwajalein is Japan's primary submarine base at the start of the war. This is like early 42. So what happens is they've been sending PBYs over the base at night to drop sea mines, because who knows, maybe a submarine might just run into a mine, and that's one less submarine they have to deal with. So when the Sakuragan Maru gets transferred in May of 1942, she arrives at like June 1st. This is right before the Battle of Midway. They decide that, you know what, we're gonna put this little fishing boat into a division of like 3 of them and send them out to clear out the mines that were outside of Kwajalein. Because if you're going to be doing submarine operations, you don't want mines in your way. So these boats go out. They arrive on station on June 4th. And then they just hear all the radio chatter coming from Midway. Because when the dive bombers came in, radio silence was explicitly broken, because by that point, I mean, they already know where you are. So you just hear different ships yelling at each other to maneuver, and then reports of damage and so on. So this poor crew just got to hear the Kirobutai get wiped out in real time. While they were listening to this broadcast, they weren't paying attention to where they were going. And they run into a mine. The mine exploded below the ship, snapped her keel, and very heavily damaged the ship. And you have to realize this is a wooden fishing boat with like a steel rim keel. So she's not doing okay. Somehow they managed to nurse this thing back to Kwajalein, and they get this really ghetto repair job done, because what they did was they just took a big metal pipe to act as the keel and welded it onto the parts of the keel. And then they first thought about taking a submarine out of combat duty to tow it to truck, but then they realized that no, that's not going to work. So they sent the boat out on its own powers, and they made it to truck like a month later. So they get their hull mostly patched up and their keel repaired. And then they just get sent home, because now they're going to be reassigned to something else, or at least that's what they think. They arrive in Kure like mid-August, and then they don't get another assignment for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is they're just basically released from Imperial Japanese Navy service, and they just go fishing until skip 2 years in advance, and now it's I want to say June 1945. And the Imperial Japanese Navy is down in the shitter. They've lost Yamato in April. They've been bombed nonstop. So what they decided is, because they know Kure is going to be raided, they moved 343 Kokutai in the area. They've put up a bunch of radars and air defense. They've put up they've reinforced the ships that are in the harbor with just extra anti-aircraft guns. And then what's really interesting is they take all these fishing boats that are in the area, including the Sakurugan Maru. They basically put them in like a steel casket. What they do is just they bolt armor plates on top of the wooden hull. So it's like they're wearing a suit of armor. And then they put them around the harbor like anti-aircraft pickets after strapping an absolute menacing amount of firepower on them. Sakurugan Maru, they got a 120 millimeter high angle gun. They got 12 25 millimeter mounts. 4 of them were single, and then wait. No, 3 of them were single. What I'm losing. Well, they had a lot of AA, and then they also had some rifle caliber machine guns just mounted because hell, if you can strap it onto there, it's gonna fire. And then comes the first wave. Their first contact was an Avenger that flew really low. They opened fire, and that Avenger ceased to exist. For as tough as that plane is, and as shit as Japanese anti-aircraft guns are, they wiped that poor Avenger's face across the floor. Like, the written account specifically describes a dozen 25 millimeter shells hitting the plane. Like, it was flying so close that they saw it. And then the wing decided to come off. The engine burst into flames, and then the plane smashed into the water. So yeah, that thing's gone. Then comes like the full force raid. They get to see firsthand as all the bombers go in against the battleships and the carriers. Of course, Haruna opens fire with her big guns to no avail, except to, feed the fish market. Then they get attacked by a Hellcat. This Hellcat's carrying the rockets, 6 rockets that the Havars. It fires 2 Havars at this fishing boat because, honestly, these AA pickets are very annoying. And they've been doing some serious damage. So this Hellcat pilot decides that he's going to end this boat's career. He goes in, he fires 2 rockets. One of them misses. One of them is a dud, which just hits the armor, add-on armor, and just compresses in on itself. And just shatters. So they got lucky on that part, but then the Hellcat came around and went in for a strafing run. That did some serious damage. So the captain basically decides he's going to take the Sakurugan Maru, as slow as she is with all that armor on her, and he's going to beach her on the nearest little outcropping. So he just takes it and he full speeds this poor boat, which is struggling after getting her keel snapped, having to have all her engines replaced, and now she's wearing an extra, I want to say, 500 kilos of armor, half a ton of armor. So this thing is traveling at like 3 knots. It's not going anywhere. And this is the part that, because I opened up my copy of what I wrote down from the story, this is the part that I didn't tell Fleet and Fox when I told them the anecdote, is while they were trying to get the hell out of there, they almost get rammed by a destroyer trying to get underway. It doesn't say what type. It could have been a Matsu class, because there was a lot of them in Kure. But they almost get JFK'd by a destroyer who cuts very close. And then, of course, there's some very angry expletive yelling between the two ships as they pass by each other.
Are we? Is that the? I assume since he's back in the audience, that was the little story there about the little Japanese fishing boat that could. Thank you very much for telling that. I'm sure the audience found it as interesting as I did. And a little piece of World War II history that you won't read in most books, probably because it isn't there. Alex, you got something to say?
Not really. It's like most of the stuff, it's a case of, yeah. Speaking as someone who has had this fun of writing books, and you get the things come back for people and what they want. Usually, when you add in stories like that, you'll get a few people. No one will write in saying thank you for putting the story in, but you'll get about half a dozen go. Why didn't you mention this? Why didn't you talk more about this big gun? This is about a dozen books talking about that topic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
right.
You know.
So, Bone Mill Boy asks, did the Buccaneer carry out skip bombing attacks? I don't know if the Buccaneer was rated for skip bombing.
I'm pretty sure I could probably do it.
Probably could, yeah. But as for whether they did, I am not sure. So next question is one from the Discord. Oh my god, we're gonna have so many questions. But hey, Catch Up Ramblings on Friday is gonna be fun. So who is this question from again? Where was it? What? So there we go. YouTube Minecraft Watcher asks, what if all British battle cruisers in 1914 become Vanguard class battle cruisers? How badly would Germany get mauled? Vanguard class battle cruiser. That's a new one. Let me have a look.
Well, the fully armored battle cruiser of World War II.
That you mean Vanguard, the battleship?
She's a battle cruiser.
She's not. She's a battleship. I've looked.
Fleet.
I know you said this.
She is defined out by her instructors as a fully armored battle cruiser.
For
the Royal
all
Navy
of 5
at the time were building
seconds.
2 classes of fast battleships. So in the nicest way, at no point is she a battleship.
Her framing is no different from the KGB's.
Her framing is different.
I've looked into this. It isn't.
It's much
I don't
like
know
a
where
bit.
you've got.
It is. It is different.
Where are you getting this information from? Like the framing.
The actual plans,
Oh,
the
I've
actual
looked-
structuring, and the designers and definitions. In the nicest way, she is a fully armored battle cruiser. She is not a fast battleship. I know that because the Royal Navy were building fast battleships. If they were going, she was a fast battleship, they'd have just called her a fast battleship,
I don't know
like
what
they did
plans-
the Lions and the King George V's. So in the nicest way, if they've made the distinction, and once you look at the framing and everything, there is and the cut and the armor coverage, etc., that is the case. She is a fully armored battle cruiser.
Like,
Her
Okay.
frame is thinner than the KGB's. Her ribs are thinner. Her bulkheads are thinner.
I must have seen different plans then, because I did look into this, and the plans I saw didn't have any appreciable difference in bulkheads or arrangement of framing.
Well, speaking as the person who's gone and looked at our plans in Greenwich and in the other places where they're stored, there is an appreciable difference.
Probably the level of detail I've got access to, because obviously I can't go and look at the actual, plans physically. Whereas you kind of have. You might need to do a video on that, because it's a lot of people do still maintain she is a battleship. you might want to do a full video
Please
on
note,
Vanguard.
me and Drac, who fight and argue over Congos and where they position, fully agree on Vanguard.
Oh yeah, I agree, but you both probably need to do videos on that subject then, because the general consensus still is that she's a battleship. You probably want to do a video on that if you haven't already, or if you have, because it.
Shall we move on to the actual question?
Yeah. So, what if all the British battle cruisers in 1914 become Vanguard class fully armored battle cruisers? How badly would Germany get mauled? Aggressively, because that's yeah, it's bad for the Germans. They're all Vanguards.
Basically, that's not good for Germany. That's not good under any circumstance. That is not good for Germany. That is a terrible, terrible experience for Germany.
Yeah, that's just the entire High Seas fleet. Never mind the battle cruiser force, dead and buried very quickly. That does not last very long.
Nope. In many ways, it can't, because... How do I put this politely?
That's it.
There's a limit to how much you can really, how do I put this politely? In that scenario, they're not going to run out of shells. They've got 15-inch 42s. So, yeah. It's just not a good scenario for them at all.
Mm-hmm. No, they were 42 caliber Suikaku. That she had.
Yeah, so the British can support and sustain her very easily.
They're the same guns they're putting on their new Queen Elizabeth class battleships or Revenge class battleships.
They're gonna get extra of them. And if you consider, if you're replacing all the Invincibles, all the Indefatigables, the Lions, it's 1914, right? So everything, including Tiger, all of them are replaced with Vanguards. Nice way, BT now commands the most powerful battle fleet in the world. Mildly scary thought, that one.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Bugmill Boy, HMS Sovereign of the Seas appears alongside the British fleet on 20th of October 1805 in a 1660 state. Can it fight alongside modern ships? Would Sovereign of the Seas crews understand the flag signals? If 1660s, would they understand the flag signals? Or would someone have to go alongside with a megaphone? Because I know flag signals come in that period from the 1600s through to the 1700s, but I just don't know when. Alex, you're the expert.
I'm thinking.
Oh my god. We're actually forcing him to dig into his mind. This really is a good question.
Well,
Don't they get simplified as well? I'm sure sometime after the introduction, signals got simplified and rationalized.
They can fight whilst the semaphore signals are differential because they've gone through 6 different books of signals by that point, officially in the Royal Navy. They're now by this point. It could be understood to an extent, and they could always just drop off a spare signals book, and they would be carrying multiples.
Mm-hmm.
The main problem you're going to have is explain to her that she's now HMS.
I mean, with her vast different array of guns, she's going to be very good at the sort of close action Trafalgar is.
Oh, she's going to get pummeled in seconds, but it should be interesting.
Yeah.
She has got a lot of bronze cannons, so she'll still be able to hold her own to an extent, but she's basically the equivalent of a third rate by that point.
Yeah, poor old Sovereign of the Seas, bless her. Like, when she's built, she's fantastic, but it ain't the 1660s anymore. In a way, it's a good sort of. Honestly, I'm tempted to commission an artwork of that side by side to show, yes, the Age of Sail was a lot of similarities, but there was development in ship design. Here's Sovereign of the Seas, here's HMS Victory. Look at the differences. Look at what's changed. That would be a good video idea, actually. Like Sovereign of the Seas to Victory, what's different, what's the same? So typical officer. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Because I'm having to do. You go, typical officer. Why did the USN keep an original all-gun Baltimore cruiser into the 16th? They're just keeping one of the Des Moines cruisers to serve alongside Newport News. The US had the other 3 Des Moines in reserve, but I think they were serving as spares donors for Newport News by that point, especially for triple mounts. And of course, there are so many Baltimores in reserve. It's relatively easy to keep one of them running as a second 8-inch gun cruiser, given that the only real capability difference in terms of between a Des Moines and a Baltimore is slightly thicker armor on the Des Moines and the autoloading guns. The 8-inch guns still hit the same shell for shell. It's just the Des Moines is sending more shells your way.
Yes.
And
she's regularly sending more shells your way. She likes to send more shells your way.
Yeah. But bearing in mind, by the 60s, you're looking at these ships. They're no longer needed as counters to Soviet heavy fleet units. The Gangut's are gone. The Stalingrads never appeared. Neither did the hypothetical Russian heavy cruisers. And the Sverdlovs were not built in as many numbers. And also at this point, the anti-Svelov device known as Talos exists. And Terrier. Why do you need guns when I can just yeet 3 missiles at it and watch it explode? Especially if the warhead the Talos has is the Spicy Rock warhead. So at this point, they're very much showing the flagships, and when Vietnam rolls around, surface gunfire. And at that point, honestly, the Baltimore's better for that than Des Moines. And the reason for that is simply down to the ease of use. You'll notice that Newport News shows up when something particularly annoying is refusing to die. So she will show up to deal with usually targets that have been bombarded by other ships and have not died. She will show up and go, die, 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 with her 8-inch guns. Rapid fire. Whereas the Baltimore will just be there basically all the time, along with some of the converted Clevelands, just shooting up things of interest generally. And then, of course, the Iowas show up and blow up things that are really annoying. Well, Iowa, singular. Well, not Iowa herself. It was it Wisconsin or New Jersey? I forget which one was the Iowa that was reactivated for Vietnam. I will look. I will check. I will check that.
I would, because now I cannot honestly remember.
I'm
sitting here trying to think.
I was like, anytime, Alex, because I was like, I'm leaving the gap.
You put it straight out my brain, but you're sort of going, okay,
it was.
That is what I know.
It was New Jersey. It was New Jersey.
Ryan will be very disappointed in us.
Yeah.
And of course, this is actually the this is the commissioning when she achieved the battleship world speed record of 35.2 knots. So yeah, I was crazy quick.
It's a useful ship.
Mm-hmm. So we did that. We did that. Push the button. Bowmeal Boy asks, how would one modernize SS Great Eastern to become a missile battleship in the 1950s?
Who hurt you so much that you wish to suggest this as a topic?
Yes, my sentiments exactly. As Drac has said and shown during his April Fool's video this year, there is an awful lot one can do with a hull the size and robustness of Great Easterns. But there comes a point when one has to look at facts in the face and go, we fundamentally cannot push this any further. And this is one of those points.
Yes.
She lacks the power generation, and even if you rebuild her thoroughly with new power plant, new machinery, you're gonna have you would have to remove so much of the framing holding the stuff together, the ship together, to re-engine and rebuild and rejig her interiors. I'm not sure of her structural stability once you're done. It's not like Drac's series of refits, where she's iterated upon gradually, and more framing and reworking is done each time, so by the time some of the bigger rebuilds come along, she's got the framing, the internals, and the revisions to handle the rebuilds. We're talking here about stock Great Eastern without any of that. And at that point, I don't think it's possible. I'm actually going to put my head above the parapet and say I'm not sure you can. I think that's a stretch too far.
I'm just going to say you definitely can't. I'm sorry, but no.
Okay. Timu asks, will Da Fleet, as we said, like Da Orcs, will Da Fleet go and explore the delights served in maid cafes in Japan? I've no doubt we'll probably take in a maid cafe, at least one, during our visit to Japan. If only for the cultural experience of it, if nothing else. It's one of those things where if you're going to Japan, and you're going to do, like, a trip of the lifetime as we are, you'd kind of have to be, you don't want to miss the cultural and, the culture, basically. Ruinon's back. Hey! She's back. Excellent, 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 excellent. But yeah, I think that's right, Alex, isn't it? We've fitted in some things like that, not specifically in the timetable, but just
there are things.
Yeah. Push the button. Boop. I like having my button. Steve.
There are plans.
Yeah. Steve Clark asks, Italy and Austria come to a compromise in 1915 and the Italians stick with the Triple Alliance. How knackered are the French? Because that's going to be interesting, because what are the Austrians going to have to give up? Because in order...
Fleet, before you start, remember, the Triple Alliance is a pure... Italy's part in it is purely defensive.
I know.
Not offensive.
I know. I am bearing that in mind, but I'm just starting with the basics of how this has happened. So the best they can hope for is if the Austrians actually give up South Tyrol and perhaps what we would know as the Italian port city that became known as Zara in the interwar period, along with perhaps a little bit of extra land around Venice and that area, and a little bit of perhaps of Slovenia. Basically, you give Italy some of their World War I ending borders, but not specifically the areas around Pola and the areas of Slovenia vital to the maintenance of Austrian naval power. Because that's the only way you're going to get the Italians to agree to this. But if they agree, you've secured a neutral Italy in the conflict. That's the best outcome you can hope for. The Italian, like I said, the Italians won't, not under any obligation to honor the joining of this conflict, because, like I said, the Triple Alliance is a defensive pact. I will explore that outcome in a minute, but we'll explore the more reasonable outcome first. Assuming a neutral Italy, that does mean that the Austrian fleet can actually keep pressuring the Otranto barrage basically continuously, because they're gonna have because the force disparity is actually not that great. Once you've got all 4 Tegetovs, the 4 Tegetovs and the 3 Radetskis as a battle line force surrounded by what screen forces the Austrians can muster, that is a force the French have to take very seriously. And if they don't take that seriously, that is a force that could break the Otranto barrage. All of the Tegetovs and the Radetskis. I don't know if they're going to... I don't know what the Austrians will do if they actually break the Otranto barrage. Alex, do you know what the Austrians' plans were if they actually were able to break out even for like a limited sortie into the Med? Did they have any goals they wanted to do with their navy?
Basically cause as much trouble as they physically can.
I think the option for that is basically to wait until the Gallipoli campaign starts and then try and jump. Well, basically, yeah, try and jump isolated assets as best you can.
I think that's pretty much was their plan.
And I mean, the real prize would be if you can catch Queen Elizabeth as she's transiting the Mediterranean on her way to Gallipoli. Like, if they can...
Although...
Like, I know she's going to be a tough nut to take down, and she might take one of the battleships with her, but if the Austrians can nail a QE, that's going to be of great help to the...
Hello?
Hello, Foxo, we hear you. You're a little bit fuzzy, but we hear you. Foxo, we hear you. Hello, Foxo.
This is the fleet calling Foxo.
We
hear you, Foxo.
This is Fleet calling.
Oh, sorry, yes. So I'm trying to get my new PC set up.
Ah, jolly good.
I'm trying to get a 13-year-old PC to work.
Oh dear. But Alex, you were saying?
Unfortunately, the fucking thing doesn't pick up my normal voice, so I've got to try and emulate my fucking brother. Who's a twat.
Oh dear. Oh my.
Anyway, where were we?
But yes, Alex, like that would be my goal would either be to try and pick off swathes of pre-dreadnoughts, or my suggestion would be, as I said, try and jump Queen Elizabeth when she's transiting the Med on the way to or from Gallipoli. I know she won't be alone, but if you can, even if the Austrians lose a Radetzky or a Tegetov, the loss of a QE is a prize worth actually trading one of those ships for.
But the thing is, she is not traveling alone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if she holds up the resistance for too long, you suddenly find you're dealing with something else.
Yeah. So, on the naval side, the Austrians are having shenanigans and running around in the Med occasionally and having fun. On the landward side, the Austrians won't leave the Italian border entirely undefended because they don't trust the Italians even now, but it will free up slightly more assets to go and perhaps drop the hammer on Serbia even harder. Especially once the Bulgarians get involved. And do what Bulgarians do best, and absolutely take a sledgehammer to anybody next door to them. Seriously, Bulgaria's armed forces in the Balkans in the lead up to and during World War One were just... Yeah, they did some work. Then that might free up more assets to be rolled into the expanding Russian front, which may mean that winds down earlier, which may mean that the Germans will swing west earlier. The Austrians are probably going to have to bring their forces home to try and hold the empire together by force. Because at that point, even with these extra victories, it will be falling apart. Or starting the process to fall apart. And it'll need to be held together by force till war's end and probably after it. Assuming that Germany can start its spring offensive a little bit earlier, that may mean that spring offensive, without the US being on the way, without coming as it does on the aftermath of Verdun, very rapidly on the aftermath of Verdun, coming perhaps in early 1917 rather than early 1918, and there may actually be, and given that this is happening earlier, that there may be scope for another spring offensive in 1918 if the first one doesn't do the job, may result in the collapse of the French government and the capitulation of the French state. And at that point, maybe the Italians might jump in at that point to try and nab off with Tunisia, which is something they did want. Because that means they have control over that entire strait, running from the boot of Italy through Sicily to Tunisia. Although whether or not they get to keep it at the conference, with the British probably going, we're not keen on that, would remain to be seen. At that point, well, actually, no, it's not the Britain's choice because, well, Britain is on the losing side of the war now. So with that in mind, with Britain being the last Entente power standing at that point, US appetite for interventionism would be slim to none, and there would also be no need for Germany to send the Zimmerman telegram. The UK would continue to fight at sea for a while, but there would be some form of peace signed. However, the British would get a separate and very good deal. Basically, the British Empire remains untouched. We accept that you've won the conflict. Now go away. Basically. Although the French and the Russians are going to be carved up with a butcher knife. And the Balkans as well. The Ottomans will probably softly collapse, despite everything. It won't be a hard collapse as it was historically, but they are going to lose the Levant. They are going to lose the principalities down towards Mecca. They're going to lose Iraq. And there may be a series of reforms, and the Ottoman state may try to take those areas back in the 1920s, but that's a little bit outside the scope here. What it is going to mean, navally, is that the Italians are going to have at least 1 to 2 of the Caracciuelos, because they will have remained at peace during the war. And they will have continued peacetime building efforts for their navy. Hello?
Hello, yes.
Oh my lord, she's high-pitched!
What?
She's high-pitched Foxo. Oh my goodness.
Hi, pink.
That's higher. High-pitched, the high-pitched Foxo. Oh my god, that's not even English. Oh, good lord. Alex, have you got anything to add to this? I suppose we could round out this question with a discussion of post-war naval construction for the powers still standing in Europe.
Well, Britain's just building massively to restore its position.
The Italians will have... If the Italians have no disruptions in peacetime building, do you reckon they'll get all 4 Caracciuelos?
Probably.
Well, that's going to be interesting. The Austrians are then going to have to try to build the Ersatz monarchs. Whether or not they'll succeed is somewhat up in the air. You're quiet and high-pitched still.
Wait, what?
It's always fun when Foxo is quiet and
Yeah.
high-pitched.
Yeah. Right. So the next question is... Okay, actually, I'm just going to leave Ruin on to... Yeah. Oh, thank you, Ruin on. We're going to ask, do you think the Cobra maneuver, the Cobra turn, is an overrated combat move, especially in a dogfight, and it's only usable for showing off for air shows? The Cobra maneuver in a dogfight can make or break that fight. The Cobra maneuver was inputted into Flanker entirely for that situation. It was built for that close-in guns and infrared missiles kind of fight, where pulling a tighter turn than the other guy, getting your nose on, getting the missile away, getting lock, getting guns on, made or broke whether you lived or died. And
In other words, it's made for a world which no longer exists.
So,
Yeah.
Now what do you think?
you are still exceptionally quiet. I have you up to 200%, but you are exception. Oh.
You're still actually hearing what it's saying now, aren't you?
You're a little bit louder, but still high pitched. And I only heard something at sea.
Right, okay. Can you reliably hear us now?
I can reliably hear you just about, but you are incredibly high pitched and still quiet compared to what you would normally be.
Right. This better?
Not really. Bone Boy asks, how would the Blackburn Buccaneer use its rocket pods? Would it carry them as well as, or instead of bombs? As well as.
They took up.
They're wing pylons, aren't they? Rocket pods on Blackburn Buccaneer.
Yes.
Although last night this led to an interesting conversation between about Blackburns with rocket pods.
I need to go. Food's ready.
Farewell.
Enjoy. Take care.
So that is that.
Is this better?
Not really.
I just seem to be really quiet.
Yes, and high pitched. Akazuki asks, and this will be the last question we answer this week. How would you improve the Agano class light cruiser? Honestly, I would. There are two ways.
Don't build them.
There are two ways of doing it. You either accept you want to bulk out your light cruisers to replace things like the Kumas and the Kuma derivatives, and that's your goal. In which case, I would basically extend the Agano, add a 4th turret, and accept that this is my replacement for things like the Kuma, and I am accepting that it is not going to be as capable as other nations' light cruisers, but it's going to be acceptable as a large destroyer leader, and in numbers should be able to take on a treaty light cruiser, and accept that. Alternatively, if you want to have a near peer to a full-on treaty like cruiser, you basically run the design through the printer at 25%, and then you replace you then add a second twin 4-inch mount for AA work, and then you replace the dual 6-inch for triple 6-inch, and that's the basic version. And if you want an even more powerful ship, you add a 4th turret with a triple 6-inch, and that's then your peer to other nations' treaty cruisers. There are 2 angles you can do it. Yeah. Yes, basically those 2 ships that have been... Yes, basically that. And with that... Actually, we have time for one more question. I'm going to leave Knights alone for now, because that'll be a very long and deep question. YouTube Minecraft Watcher, what is your opinion on the Pak-44? Was it a better idea for production than the Jagdtiger in using the 1.28 centimeter anti-tank gun? I think you can have both. Pak-44 is a useful, exceptionally heavy anti-tank gun, but, you know, having Jagdtiger is also a way to move that gun in an armored chassis that, how would I describe it? I know Jagdtiger has its problems. I am aware of that. But it is one way to use those guns. The other way is the Pak-44 with that almost anti-aircraft gun style mobile mounting for it. And they did see use during the war, and they were very, very effective anti-tank guns, since they were the absolute best that the Germans built during the conflict, and could reliably deal with pretty much anything that they faced. And with that last question, we have come to the end of our time. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I hope you have had a fantastic time. Obviously, it is Monday, so all being well and everything being as it should be, we will have the continuation of last week's Stellaris game in about an hour's time. So if you were in that game and you know who you are, please do drop on down in about an hour's time to continue that. Thank you for the panel for being here as always. Thank you, Alex, for providing excellent information and being the voice of reason sometimes. Thank you, Foxo, for being Foxo. There is no one else like her. Thank you, the Dutchman, also known as the guy everyone likes, for being the Dutchman. Absolute legend. Thank you, Dragon, for being Dragon. And thank you, Ruinon, for being the all-singing, all-dancing admin woman for whom, without quite frankly, the server and Ramblings would not be what it has turned into today. Take care, everybody. And I am going to leave the stream running for a little bit, just while Ruinon is gathering the questions up. But as soon as she is done, we will wrap up and finish off. So, very quickly, we're just going to have a little chat between the audience and the panel, just on general this and that, while we're waiting for that little event while waiting for Ruinon to just wrap up her collection of questions in stream Q&A, ready for what is shaping up to be a very, very long catch-up Ramblings on Friday, but it ought to be a very, very good catch-up Ramblings in that particular sense. But yeah, so interesting questions this week.
Yeah.
Really interesting questions. Got a nice mix of general purpose, historical, alternate history. Really nice mix of questions this week. Really, really enjoyed doing the Ramblings this Monday. And I'm actually really looking forward to Friday's catch-up Ramblings as well. That's going to be great. Okay, and I think that is the last question from Powder Monkey. Yes, it is. So with that, and with no need for the stream to remain up, I am going to end it here. Thank you everyone for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you all on Friday for catch-up Ramblings. And of course, if you are a viewer of the Twitch channel, which I am going to put a link to in the chat right now, because Twitch is doing fairly well right now, and I would really appreciate if as many of the people who do watch me on YouTube would come and watch me on Twitch. So please do follow that link if you could, and catch me tomorrow for Rule the Waves 3 Spain, and on Wednesday for the Railroader, although it will be somewhat later than usual owing to